Hey guys. How's everybody doing? Oh, it's early for me on this day to be streaming, eh? A little bit early. Oh, who would have guessed? What a weird time. It's either good or bad, depending on when you wake up, I guess, right? I hope everybody's doing well. I have to reorganize some stuff on my desktop. Give me 1 second. I want to be able to see all you lovely folk. Hello, Kevin. Dragonas, Name, Dario, Mikey, Patton, Jace, Kevin H, Philip, my champion. How's everybody go? Oh, shoot, it's Banana. Oh, it's a 2 of spades. Oh, we got Cosme. What's up, nerds? What's up, you beautiful beasties? Guys, we're doing a call-in show today. If you want to join, the way that you join is in the Discord. It's actually very easy. Basically, you join the Discord, and then you go to the channel that says Stream Waiting Room. The Discord link is broken? All right, let me fix that. Probably would have been good to have the Discord link work, right? Let me fix it. Let me fix it. Let me fix it. I'm sorry. I think I just fixed it. Give me 1 second. I know what I'm doing. All right, it should be fixed. Try it now. If it doesn't work now, you're crazy. Can confirm? Click it again. That doesn't do shit. That Discord command, you think I'm the kind of fancy guy that has commands in my YouTube stream? I don't know how to do any of that. I knew how to do that on I guess I could do it with Stream Elements probably, right? All right. I used to do that on Twitch. I just didn't make that change here. Anyway, we have 3 people signed up so far, and if you are interested in coming on stream and you can have a question about a character you're working on, you know, if you've got a player that you want to make a cool item for, or you know, your dungeon master is hard to work with, or whatever, yeah, we could just, you know, or if you're working on, some people are working on Homebrew, if you need a little help with that. This is like office hours. We got a couple hours. I should call this office hours. That's what I should actually call this. That's a good idea. All right, we'll think about that in the future. Anyway, hi. Yeah, so the way that it works is if you are interested in joining the stream, hop into my Discord, go to the stream waiting room, and if you want to see what the order is, I think that you can actually do it by, if you go to I think that the order is showing if you go to stream events, and you can see where you are in the line. Does that sound good? Does that sound good to you? Why do I feel so short today? Is my chair sunken a little bit? It has. Ugh. Nope, I'm just short. Maybe a little bit of a combo. Whatever. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. Okay. Okay. All right, so this is also not going to be the longest stream because I am responsible for a dog these days, and at around 5, I got to do dog business. But let's start this trade. All right, first we got Baba. Let's pull Baba in here. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man, how are you?
Good. I'm on my lunch break, so I'm glad I got in first.
I'm not sure how... hell yeah. Do you have a good lunch today?
I have some Mediterranean hummus. Mediterranean, I'll put in quotes, air quotes. I've got a pita, toasted pita, and a big cucumber.
Oh, okay.
So that's lunch today.
Yeah.
If that's good or not, but not the worst lunch.
Yeah. All right. What's up? What's up today, my dude?
So, we could. I think we could do either one of two things. And I know that you. My preference would be talking with you about what you think a shapeshifter class should be or look like, and like I have some ideas about what could be a cool shapeshifter class. Because I know you had talked about like interest in doing that in this
Yeah.
stream. I don't know if you're still
The working
on
on
that.
the way that I was gonna do this was that if we didn't have anyone sign up or there weren't enough people to talk to, or if I run out of time for people to talk to, then I might shift into writing some homebrew. But I'm super down to talk my thoughts on how one would do a shapeshifter class and how I would like to.
Yeah, let's just chat about that for a bit.
So I cut you off.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, let me hit you with what my take on direction is.
Yeah.
The overall picture is basically an ability oriented martial class. So it's primarily like a physical, like weapon damage class. Weapon in quotes, because a weapon might be you. That can adapt to different situations in using its shape-shifting abilities that other classes wouldn't be able to do by like altering sort of like core stats. And like the inspiration direction for this is more, I think that the biggest inspiration is like Odo or the founders from like Star Trek, where they can like do these serious like body changes where they can like stretch an arm across the room, or they can turn into a puddle of goo, but they can also do some more like they can like change into other people or animals briefly.
Yeah.
And I think that the one thing that I think is kind of a trap for a shapeshifter class is predicating it on changing into monsters that we have stat blocks for. So like being able to change into monstrosities or aberrations, pretty much anything that's not a beast, I think can be a trap for design, because basically the balance doesn't end up working. It's too hard. There's too many monsters out there that do too many crazy things. And you would have to put too many railings on a shapeshifter class if you were going to try to open it up to those categories.
Yeah, I agree with that majorly. I've seen a lot of people, and this is one of the reasons why wild shape can give people a little bit of a headache sometimes. It's just like the idea of you transforming into monster stat blocks, or even using monster stat blocks as like summons, is very old school 5th edition. Like it's something that was a big part of the game when 5th edition was like just coming out. And I think it was before they really understood how that would work, or if that would work. And just based on the fact that like in the official design, everything is moving towards templates, especially with like summons and things like that. I think it just makes it's a lot easier to control and focus. Yeah, if I was going to make a shapeshifter, I feel like there's 2 directions that I would go in. And I'm not sure if I would do both, but I'm not sure how. It's worth thinking about. One would be essentially you have different forms that you can shift into, almost like Ben 10, where it's like you have different full creature-y stat blocks that you become, and you maybe would have invocation type features that would adjust and elevate those and customize them. And maybe you'd base your maybe the subclass would be like different types, so you'd be like the aberrant shifter or the celestial shifter or whatever. The other thing that I was thinking about, which I feel like would be pretty fun, is if you don't think about shapeshifters so much in terms of changing into different creatures, but think of them more as like something that has a fluid body. So a shapeshifter that sort of had a natural ability to become really big or really little, or to stretch their limbs into weird shapes or stuff like that. So it would almost be like a Stretch Armstrong, amorphous shapeshifter, where it's less
kind
like
of like
I'm taking
almost like a mutant
Yeah, yeah, where it's less like I'm taking on forms and more it's like I can just become different shapes. And I feel like those are the two directions that I would go in. And I don't think I would do both, but I feel like those are the two
Yeah.
that sound the most interesting to me. And I feel like those are both also things that like they sort of fill one of the things that's really important when you're thinking about classes and making new classes is like, does it merit its own existence?
Right.
And like whenever I review classes on stream, I usually stop at level 2. And the reason why, aside from it just taking up a lot of time, is if the class doesn't feel unique by level 2, then something's wrong. Like if you need to get to level 3 before you work as a unique class, then that means that you can be a subclass. So there's like it's like, and I feel like the shapeshifters, that feeling of like you can change your body to fit different roles or like different sizes or become different things as like the main thing that you do, that is a place that like that there isn't that in a base class. So I think that that's why I think it would also could potentially work. The other thing that somebody said to me, and I'm not sure how I feel about this, but a good friend of mine who is a dungeon master that I really admire and trust. He's a very smart guy. He said to me he struggles with the idea of a shapeshifter class because it feels more like it should be like a creature type than it should be like a class that you get in D&D. And his thought process was like all of the classes kind of have this like almost like a profession or like a learned experience. Right. And being a shapeshifter isn't exactly that. So there would need to be, for him to buy into it, he was like, there would need to be some lore or something about what made this something that like not only that you could do, but like anyone could potentially do and like get better at. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's very few classes that really have that sort of like intrinsic property that like only certain people could do this. I think like the only one that really pops out at me is like a sorcerer.
Yeah, sorcerer
like,
I think
is like bloodline associated.
Yeah,
it's sort of weird like that.
Yeah. That was sorcerer was what came to my head. But even sorcerer I feel like has a little
There's ways around it too.
Yeah.
You could be around a magical knowledge. If you wanted to like multi-class into a sorcerer, it wouldn't take too much to like set up something in the game story-wise that would justify it, like being trapped in a magical anomaly or something, or like a supernatural storm to make you a storm sorcerer. There's ways to like get around the bloodline equation.
Yeah.
Whereas I think you're right. Yeah, being a shapeshifter does feel more associated with like almost like a racial trait.
Yeah, I think the Ben 10. Somebody in chat said, who was that? Somebody in chat said, name said they feel like the Ben 10 could definitely be the thing that makes it work, like where you have like a special tool that you use. But I also feel like that kind of pulls away from what I love about the idea of being a shapeshifter so much, which is like I have no tools, I am the tool. You know?
Yeah. It being it's a tricky space for a bunch of different reasons, really.
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is if/when I am peer pressured / encouraged / inspired to properly make it, I'm probably going to try to build it in such a way that it has a base class where like the chassis without subclasses is more shape shifting. That is in terms of like literal just changing the shape of your body, and then maybe the subclass will be more about like what like sort of forms you can take. I think you could combine both if I did that. I think that could work.
Yeah. I mean, I think so the what core if is like the like
that you can just be different things. Yeah. So like in the same way that like something about like this. So like at level 1, a paladin gets lay on hands and divine sense. It also gets its armor and weapon proficiencies, but its main class features that it gets are lay on hands and divine sense. So I was thinking something like, a core class mechanic that you could get for this creature, for this class could be like, you can change your size category by 1 size for some amount of time or something like that. Like something that just all of them could do that would dance with that feeling and sort of build into it. Because not every feature needs to answer the question of what is this, but every feature does need to work towards like the common goal of what is this.
Right. Yeah. So I had written up basically a shapeshifter class, I think about a year ago, And my take was it's similar to what you were talking about, where the core class is really these like body, augmentations and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really go into the form direction at all. So the subclasses were one, I think was a living weapon. So you basically just double down on turning your body into like weapons, and like you go extra martial.
Mm-hmm.
The second was a face stealer. So it's more like you lean into like impersonating people and messing with people's minds.
Yeah.
And then the last one was basically turning yourself into like inanimate objects.
I like that. That's great.
That one's the toughest to do because you like if you have a player who can turn themselves into a boat or something.
Yeah, but
it's very fun,
but I love that
is, like,
so much.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can I could see it being incredibly fun, but balancing it so that it is both, balanced, like mechanically and like and also that it is fun to be like the boat or whatever.
Dude, it would be so fun to be the boat.
So tricky.
Yeah, that's a really I think okay. First of all, that is brilliant. Like I'm annoyed that I didn't think about that as a aspect of what a shapeshifter should be able to do, and that's such a good idea. And it will be hard for me not to be infected with that idea. If I'm being honest,
I give
now,
you
I just want to solve that puzzle of how do you
I had
make
written
that work?
I had written those little like intros to each class that you have where they give like a brief little example.
Yeah.
The little blurb I had for the one that turns into objects, called the duplicant. Is the party is running across. They're trying to escape from enemies. They're trying to get across this like chasm or canyon or something.
Mm-hmm.
The duplicant guy turns themselves into a bridge. The party runs across the bridge. The bad guys start running across the bridge, and he like unmorphs from the bridge form, and all the bad guys fall into the canyon.
Yeah, that's great. That's freaking great. Yeah,
it's very fun D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's a lot to think about, but it's all really fun stuff to think about. The thing that I really like, the thing that I really like though about this idea, and I think it's one thing that just hammers home to me that like I do think it's worth pursuing, is that base thought of like this feels like it could fill a space that is distinct and different from the other classes. Like that's the most important part. Yeah. There's so like very often we bump into a lot of classes that sort of feel like they might function differently than a wizard or a warlock, but they feel the same. And it sort of becomes this game of like you're building these extra different mechanics, but you're not actually filling a different space.
Yeah, you're kind of arriving at the same place.
Yeah, and even if it's a slightly different place, it has to be distinct enough. I mean, this is how I feel about it. Like, if I'm gonna put the amount of time into something to build a whole class, which is so much, like you can build a haphazard subclass in an afternoon. Like that's not hard to do. It might not be good, but it's possible. But a whole class takes a really long time, and I just don't think it's worth it to spend that much time on something where the end product is potentially so similar to another thing that some other people already made and play tested and like works fine. So like I feel like to decide to take that journey to make a new class, not only do you need to make sure it's like a distinct new idea, you need to make sure that it feels distinct like to play, you know? Yeah. All right, buddy. I'm going to kick you out. Or you can leave on your own accord. All right, bye, Baba. He's out of here. All right, let's grab name. That was Baba, a.k.a. Philip. Hello, name.
Hey, can you hear me? Am I audible?
I can, and you are. How are you doing?
I am good. I have one question for you that is a player perspective, which is not something I thought I would be asking here.
Hell yeah, no, I love a good player question. I'm a player. In a game.
I am too. So I have context here. Is that I play a bi-weekly game. I play 2 bi-weekly games with like the same group of friends. One where I'm the DM,
thank you for the gift,
where I'm
Kevin.
Not. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, the game I'm not playing, or the game that I'm not running, is like it's a Critical Role, like one of the books.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like he's bought a book or whatever.
Wild Mount, or one of those.
Yeah.
Those are good books.
So we're playing. Yeah. I'm not critiquing the book, but it's this thing where I see him go into like paralysis of like, oh, there's like 6 trillion descriptions because it's a book,
Mm-hmm.
right, for everything, and there's what's in this location and what's in this location, and it can grind games down to a halt. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Now,
for sure.
I have fun. I want to make this absolutely clear. I have fun, and I've told him this explicitly. This is not like I don't know what to say to him, but I see it happen all the time.
How comfortable, how casual are you with this guy? Like, are you chummy?
Like, I mean, he's a friend of mine. Yeah, we're friends.
All right, if you guys are legit like friends and chummy, because this is I think you just pointed out while it's happening. Like that's what I would do. I have one of my dungeon masters. He does this too, where when he's doing like a game recap, he will literally start going like roll through roll, like beat through beat through the recap, and if one of us doesn't say, hey, Josh, the 2-minute version, then he'll just keep going forever. But he's not offended by that either. So like that might be the solution. Just being like, hey.
Oh no. Right. Like so there's a part 2. So that was the setup.
Oh, sorry,
to
might
the
be.
question. No. You're fine. No. So the question is more along the lines of like I've mentioned this to him, like even in the game, but I keep seeing it happen, and I don't feel bad. I like the situation that we're playing, but then we jump to my game where we like go into a big combat and they almost all die, and then we go into his game and we go to a tavern, and that's the adventure because we spent the whole time like just like hanging out, which again is fun. I don't dislike that. But is there anything I can do as a player to kind of like move the story along? Again, I've explicitly talked to him. Is there like actions I can reasonably take to like, oh, I want to do this thing? Like I'll make comments about like I'm going to wait at the location until the event we have to wait for happens. Is there like anything else I could do?
Well, I think there's two things. The first thing is if everyone is having fun and doesn't care that it's slow paced, yourself included, then I don't actually think it matters at all.
Okay.
I don't think there's a pace that D&D needs to be. The only pace that it needs to be is the pace that everyone's having fun. If you don't finish the first arc of the first adventure that you are on, but you have a fun 10 sessions, then who cares? So that's the first thing. The second thing is if you guys do care, and there is an element of like, man, I want to move things along, I think you have 2 ways to go about it. One is out of character to the other players and Dungeon Master. You can be like, all right, like I'm ready. You guys ready? Let's go do this. Let's just just say it. The other thing that you could do is in character, you could kind of do the same thing. It's a little bit more of a gentle hand, but like if the other characters are like just like really chewing the scenery, or everybody is really reluctant to like take the first step or go to the place, you can be like, in character, you can be like, guys, we've drinking enough mead for 3 counties over. I say we earn our names as adventurers, and slam your fist on the table. If it's the dungeon master, you kind of need to be a little bit more direct, I think, where you can say like I don't think there's anything else we need to do tonight. Like, can we skip to the next day? Which I think is totally reasonable. Like when I'm a dungeon master, I do time skips all the time.
I love doing time skips. It's as I said, it's not so much as I said, we all kind of like the situation, but I, the other dungeon master, and this is why I brought that up, feel guilty because I'll go on like a bunch of crazy stuff will happen, and I'll feel like if crazy stuff doesn't happen, I feel bad. But I also don't want to be like, oh, and then we jump to my game where crazy stuff happens, and then we go to your game where we hang out in a tavern for 4 hours and still have a good time.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Man. I just think it's just different flavors. If anything, that just probably makes them enjoy. The rest of the people enjoy the diversity.
Okay.
I don't know. I love a good quiet session as much as I love a good crazy cosmic explosion session.
Yeah. Okay. I really appreciate it. I talk to these people. These are my friends from like the actual world.
Mhm.
So it's not like I have to tell them, oh no, I don't know how to address you as like a person. We're all grown people talking to like each other about all kinds of stuff. So it's not
Yeah. That's
that
why. That's what I
crazy.
think. If it like it's I have the group that I'm a player in very similar, where we're
Right.
just we've been friends since we were kids, and so it's just we're all very good at just being like, hey, enough, or like, hey, I gotta like do something in an hour. Let's get to business.
Okay, that's cool. I have another question for you that's quick, but I don't know how
Ask
much
it.
time you want to waste on it.
It's not a
I have
waste.
I have a mechanical question
Sure. Oh, the
that
lighting.
I've
My
been
lighting is about to get
tempted.
so fucked. The sun's about to be in my face. All right, well, it doesn't matter. Well, yes.
My mechanical question is, I've been toying with the idea of making a spell that makes weapons and or like uh arrows or something,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how powerful that is because I don't see a lot of stuff that actually does that.
It makes
So
magical ammunition.
no, it just makes like so it makes like regular arrows or makes
Oh,
regular weapons. So like
that's fine.
if I'm like, hey, you can get a longsword. You can make a longsword if you take 10 minutes. I don't know what level to make that. Uh,
I think depending on how often it can be used, uncommon or common. I mean uncommon or rare.
no. I'm saying that you can make like from Player's Handbook the longsword and it breaks in 24 hours or something.
Yeah, I'm saying that like if you're talking about like, are you talking about like a mechanic to do that, or a magic item that would do
Just
that?
like explicit spell. Like
Oh,
just I give you
oh,
a
a
spell
spell.
that
I'm sorry. I thought you said a
yeah,
magic
yeah,
item.
yeah.
Oh, I feel
No.
like that is. I mean, if it's a mundane item, I don't think it needs to be that strong. I would make it an abjuration item, and I think depending on the
Right.
quality value of the item, make it a first or second level spell. A first
Okay.
level spell to get a sword for 8 hours is I don't think that would be unreasonable.
Okay.
I think what you could do, you could also do is if you wanted to make it a little stronger, make it a second level spell, or yeah, maybe a first or second level spell, make it count as a magical item. And then you could also upscale it to make it summon a +1, like sort of
Yeah,
like
I might
spiritual
do
weapon,
that.
where like every 2 levels that you upscale it, it becomes a +1 or a +2 or +3.
Okay. And then what about arrows? Because I know most people don't keep track of arrows, but is that like if I'm like you can make 5 arrows, is that cantripy or is
Yeah, I
that
would
too much?
almost make that cantripy.
Okay.
Somebody, Quatus in chat said Shadow Blade is the spell they mentioned. I think that's a second level spell, and that's a pretty strong magical weapon that you get when you summon it. It does require concentration, and it is a lot shorter though, so I wouldn't compare it 100%, but it would be a
Yeah,
good thing to
that
look at.
that's the thing that I was hesitant on because I wanted to just have a spell that you make a thing that you can just give to people. Like I just don't want you to be
Yeah,
able to sell it.
it seems like it's essentially like mage armor but offensive.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. I don't want it to be concentration. I just
Yeah,
want it to be
yeah. So
you
I would
spend a
make
spell
it
slot.
very low level, and I would make it
Yeah.
just make a good old regular sword, and have that sword break after a certain amount of time,
Sure. Okay. That's not crazy
or just
unbalanced or
like
anything.
disappear into the shadows.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that's
I'm sure that player will figure out something stupid to do with it,
right.
but at the end of the day, then maybe that's fine. I do think that there
Okay.
is an element of you have some control over that in terms of like
Uh-huh.
the freedom that you make them. If you just make it like literally you're just picking one of the weapons from the simple martial table,
Yeah.
I feel like that's a hard spell to break. Like
Yeah, I just don't want you to
even if you
sell it.
cast it like 30, I mean you if you don't want them to sell it at all, then I think you need to make it disappear after it's like a certain distance away from you. Because if somebody can summon something and it can exist for even a minute, they can try to sell it.
Oh, I meant I wanted to make it so that it looks that you could try to sell, but I would make it look like it's going to disappear.
Okay, yeah. So
So that
maybe when you summon it, it doesn't look like a normal sword. Maybe it has like an
yeah,
ethereal look to it. Like
yeah,
it looks like it looks like a
yeah,
summoned sword. It doesn't look real. Like it looks
yeah,
sort of
but it just
ghostly.
functions as one so that
Yeah.
you can't yeah, that's fine. I just figured it'd be like kind of a fun sort of help out your martial class friends by oh no, my sword of +3 broke. Here, have a crummy longsword at least.
Yeah, I like that. If you wanted to make it a little stronger, if you do go in the direction of it being kind of ethereal, you could maybe have it function. Oh, my camera's getting wonky. You could maybe have it function in a way where it's not magical, but it cuts through certain magical resistances. Like maybe it doesn't break magic resistance, but it does deal full damage to like ghosts or something because it's kind of ethereal, you know?
I might upscale it to like on a slight upscale it might have magical damage. On a slightly higher it's a +1, on a slightly higher it's a +2.
Yeah, that could work. That could work. I would probably make it regular, just be regular, then upscale to magic, and then upscale to +1 and upscale +2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. No more cool questions.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Bye. All right, he's out of there. All right, Name, you're back in the initiative. You got to leave, or you're going to stay there forever. All right, let me grab capital. We have a capital D. Let me grab that guy. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. Second time viewer, second time caller.
Nice. Is your username D ... or is your username just long and it's shortening it on my Discord?
It should be just shortening. It's Dice Admiral.
Oh, okay. It's a shortening. How's it going, man?
Yeah, pretty good. I've got a scenario I'd kind of like to talk through.
Sure.
And I'll try to abbreviate it because it's a situation we've been playing through for like 2 years in real time of the game. We play to your point earlier, we play a really slow game, and I constantly ask the players if they're having fun and good with the pace, and they are. So that's, if anybody's listening and has got that kind of, just check in with your players. Like we're doing Tomb of Annihilation, and people talk about having finished it in 6 months or whatever. We've been playing it for 2 years, and they haven't started really exploring the map yet, which is the whole point.
Tomb of Annihilation the one that takes place on the island?
I think technically it's a peninsula, but yeah, it's like an isolated jungle.
And it's like the Death Plague.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I hear very good things about that campaign.
It's a lot of fun, but I can't comment on most of it because they've just been kind of stumbling around the jungle for a while and having a good time. So,
right. Fair.
So one of the situations that is in this is due to a weird time loop. They had before they went to this scenario, they were stuck in a time loop. One of them died. They betrayed an evil god, blah, blah, blah. End result is there is an evil duplicate of the party's bard who is 1 day ahead of them in time. So wherever they go, he was there a day ago. And I'm trying to figure out how to, they're eventually about to go to this city. And he's been kind of screwing with them, leaving notes, setting traps, that kind of stuff. But he doesn't want the original guy dead. That'll kill him. But basically, I would like some brainstorming, if you can help me on this. Stuff this guy might do to them a little bit, just to kind of complicate their lives. And then any suggestions you might have on how they would resolve this. Because I don't want there to be every single place they go, this guy has always been there. That's going to get tedious. I feel like we're kind of getting to the end of where this arc needs to go. I want to get rid of this guy, and I've got a couple things in my quiver, and I can always just make them come up with something, and whatever they come up with, if it sounds good, it works, which I do a lot. But I'd like to have a couple of suggestions if they're like, hey, I want to go talk to a priest. What is that guy going to say? Other than get both of you here and do a ritual, right? If there's any sort of clever, I don't know, looking for clever ideas surrounding how they might get rid of a time displaced duplicate who's in the future.
So
if that makes
so they can't interact with this duplicate because it's just always in the future.
It's a little bit complicated, so I've made it fuzzy. They haven't figured it all out.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, if they stay in a place if he stays in a place for an entire day, they'll run into him.
Okay, so he's 24 hours in the future. So if they wait around, they could bump into him.
He would have to wait around because he's ahead of them. So if they can do something to make him, they've done it once before, where they went to a cave and kind of stayed. There's a consequence where he had to go where they were going, but
I mean,
That's,
what I
again,
would
try not to
probably do if
overcomplicate it.
I mean, and they don't do they know these rules yet? Do they understand these mechanics that he is 24 hours ahead of them? Have they figured
They
that out
know he's
yet?
ahead of them in time, and they know there's a relationship between him and the party's bard, and the bard can kind of sense where he's going to be, and that's about what they've figured out. They haven't done a lot of like detective work because they've been running around the jungle.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they need to figure, in order for this to get solved, they need to figure out that system. So like what I would encourage you to do is create opportunities for them to encounter clues that might not just indicate that he has been where they are, but like the time frame of it a little bit, so they can start to get a sense of like, okay, he is about this far ahead of us. Then what they could do in theory is they could like decide where they're going to go and be like, okay, we're going to go to this place. And because they know that's where they're going to go, that's also where they know he'll be. You know what I mean? Like if they, or is he like, I guess that's not necessarily true because he's not beholden to them, is he?
Yeah, I was trying not to get too deep into it, but
well,
because it's
okay. Here's the situation. Here's the situation. It doesn't I don't need to know the details. What I need to know is the rules of the time travel.
So how it was working was that wherever they were going to be, he had to be there a day ahead of time.
Is that how it's still working?
He was forced to go. It was sort of a weird like reverse causality thing. Like,
yeah, I understand.
He didn't get to choose where he was going to
go. So they could use that to control where he's going to be then if they want.
Well, they did. And then he caught them and flipped the script. And now they have to go where he's going to go. That's the one encounter they had with him. They forced him to show up. And then he was like, I'm sick of going where you want to go. He isolated the bard and flipped it.
Okay. Well,
and they've figured that out. They figured out that now where previously he had to go where they were going to go, now they have to go where he's been. Mm-hmm. So, but he is going to go to this city and he's going to be there for a while. It's sort of his goal. So I think it might make sense for them to be able to find some of that. I don't know. This is
well. Here's what I would. You've sort of created an odd situation, right? Because by flipping it that way, where he now dictates where they're going to go, they don't really have any agency anymore in meeting him or not. He has all the power. So you've created a situation where you kind of have to put the pieces in place for them. Like he has to want them to meet now. So what I would say, or want them to separate, or something like that. So what I would probably suggest doing is creating a situation where maybe if they're going to be in this big city, that he has been in the city for however long or whatever, and is like trying to separate from them or break free from them or whatever. And maybe some of the people they've encountered that he's encountered along the way will like talk to the party after he's talked to them so that they can kind of like learn from them to like, I don't know, stop him or help him. Like it's a little bit weird because I don't really understand what the goal is of all of this, I guess.
Do you mean my goal or the character's goal?
Either. Like does he want to break free? Does he want to break free from them?
Yeah. He doesn't want them hanging around.
And do they want to break free from him?
Yeah, basically. But he looks identical to the bard, right? So if they let him go running around, he's out there as an evil duplicate doing.
But it doesn't.
Shit,
but that's off the table now because it's not them letting him. They're done. He can do whatever he wants. He no longer has to do whatever they do. So it's more a matter of, so what I would say because of that, I would actually say what you should probably do is have him not want to separate from the group and have him want to cause as much, because if he's the evil twin, have him want to cause as much chaos as possible while he is still connected to the group because he knows whatever crime he commits, they're going to show up at that place a day later and get in trouble for it. And it becomes a game of they have to figure out how to like figure out where he's going to be next or stop him before they just get in trouble for every crime that he commits. The thing that I think you need to work on to make that work is you need to figure out how beholden to this time stuff they are. Like, if they have to be everywhere that he goes 24 hours later, then they have no agency over themselves at all. So I'm not exactly sure how much power there is there or not, but if they have any power there, then it becomes sort of a weird cat and mouse where they have to try to like figure out where he's going to be to stop him so that he doesn't get them in trouble. That's the direction that I would go in. Because if he wants to break free and they want to break free, then because if he wants them to no longer be connected and they want to no longer be connected, what should really happen is he goes to the big city, figures out what crazy wizard or chronologist or whatever can set them in place, and then he waits for them for 24 hours, and then they're like, all right, cool, we're not connected. Because why would they fight over being connected or not if they both want to not be connected, you know?
Yeah. I mean, maybe that is the end result of it too.
Because if there's no
I think that
reason,
is a logical.
Yeah, because if there's result. Why would he make it more difficult if it's what he wants?
That's true. Yeah, I think I kind of bit myself in a little bit on this because I was in the headspace of the character, and they met him, and I was like, what does this guy actually want? Well, he wants to stop being dragged around the jungle, forced to go where these guys are gonna go because they're idiots and they keep getting lost. So then I was like, okay, that's what he wants, so that's what happened. But it kind of screwed me over because now I'm doing one of the things I hate, which is forcing the players to go exactly where this NPC is going, right? Because they have to follow him. So
yeah. So I would probably if this is
only the bard has to go there, right? They could split up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is that you need to figure out if you want this doppelganger, this duplicate to just become a bad guy and to take advantage of the fact that he is now in charge of the saddle, or for him to become more of a unusual NPC that like they have to decide how they want to contend with by him just meeting them and being like, hey, let's solve this problem. And it's sort of up to the party to be like, can we decide that this is okay, or do we need to like kill this guy? And make it more of like a moral quandary thing. That's what I would do. I would do one of those two.
Yeah.
Because I agree. I think you got to get him off the rails. I would. You don't want them to be dragged along by him for too long.
No. So sort of I've been noodling on this, but I haven't had any set ideas yet. And the best I had come up with to sort of get them off the rails is that the premise of where this guy is sort of broad, right? So if he's at the city, he's in the city, right? And you might have a sense of where he was 24 hours ago, but the location is set and you're there, he's there. Therefore, you don't have to be running straight into him.
Yeah,
right?
That makes sense. But I do think
that might give me a little more flexibility.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat also, I don't know how wacky your campaign is, but somebody in the chat mentioned that Modrons really hate time travel. And if you want to make it, and if you want to make it where he wants to meet up with them and they want to meet up with him, but they have to do it like they have to find each other while avoiding like this city that is now sort of being scanned by Modrons to find the time mishap, because it's like, oh, if the Modrons find us, they're just gonna kill us both. So we got to find this guy before the Modrons find him, or the Modrons find us. You know what I mean? So it becomes like a little bit of a
that's
race.
An excellent idea.
That could be kind of fun, because it could be like, oh, if the Modrons find him, we're also in trouble. Like we need to find him, and you know what I mean? Like you could lean in that direction.
I think that's a good idea too. So I think, yeah, pin down exactly what this guy wants, and then maybe force it towards a conclusion. And I like the Modron idea.
And he doesn't need to be a bad guy. Like, you know, I don't know what their goal was with him initially, but especially if you want him to be kind of like thoughtful and logical, like it would make sense for him to like to do what he can to help these guys to not also be dragged along by him, regardless of what his goals are, so that he can just go about his way, you know? So even if you do want him to be a bad guy, he could be a little bit of a nuanced bad guy where he does some things to sort of show that, we thought this was an evil twin, but it's actually, maybe it's just a whole new person that just kind of looks like the bard and sounds like the bard, you know?
Yeah, at this point, their personalities are very different.
Yeah.
That's partly because I didn't want to try and emulate the player himself, right? Like the bad guy was always going to act a little different.
Yeah, for sure.
But I like that though, because then I can set up a scenario where they're like trying to complete a ritual to get them separated while under siege from Modrons.
Yeah, that could be fun. That could be
That
really
would be
fun.
cool.
And Modrons are like one of the most fun
encounter.
monster with the super boring stat blocks, but they're really fun even though their stat blocks are boring.
Yeah, I might pick something slightly different because I've already used Modrons with this group in a different setting.
Yeah, and do something weird. You could just make a big glowing
Oh,
orb.
like
You have
the
broken time.
vectors or
The
something.
time orb or whatever. All right, cool, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for calling.
What's it?
Oh,
The
yeah. Hello? Did I
Oh.
lose you?
I was just gonna say like they did that.
Uh-oh, I'm thinking I'm
Gosh.
losing you. You're sounding a little
Hello?
tinkled. Hello? Hello?
Hello. Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks for your help.
Yeah, okay. You're a little bit breaking up, but you're wonderful, and call back if you need more help. Bye. All right, that was the Admiral. The good old Admiral. Man, time travel is hard to do in D&D. Any time shenanigans, time loop stuff is really hard. It's like, it's one of those things where like you want to try to make it work because it's so fun when it works well in movies, but the only reason why it works is because you don't need to worry about agency. If you can pull it off though, kudos to you. All right, next we have Enterprise. Let's get Enterprise in here. Enterprise. Hello. Welcome.
Hello.
How's it going, buddy?
Hi there. First time on all of this, so bear with me.
I will.
But my question is, how would you deal with a first-time DM that's kind of stuck in paralysis? It's not writer's block somewhat, but it's just you can do the story well. It's just you don't know if you had the capability of pulling it off.
Are you talking about for yourself, or are you talking about you as a player and you have a dungeon master?
No, me as a dungeon master with a bunch of friends that are my players.
I got you. And have you started running the game yet, or are you still sort of in the deciding part?
We got through 3 sessions, and then the problems with their head, I tried fixing them, and then the paralysis took over of like, oh, I can go ahead and add this, and add this, and do this, and do that, and the paralyzed brain decision.
Yeah, so you just have too many too many ideas. You're not able to decide what makes the most sense for you.
Yes.
All right, so I have 2 ideas. One is that you don't ever need to throw away an idea. One thing that I do, and it's made me, I think, a fairly good improviser when I'm a dungeon master, is if I have an idea that I really like, I write it down, and I have like a place where I just keep them.
I have that done too.
Yeah, and so it makes it so my games start to become a little bit more sandboxy, where the players kind of just go in a direction, and I can pull things from those ideas that fit what's going on. But one thing that I think would probably be worthwhile, and is this your first time being a dungeon master?
Yes. I did try talking with the players about it. One thing that they kind of brought up is the fact of I'm trying to plan for every possible outcome, but I realize that that's kind of self-defeating.
Yeah,
because everyone is kind of doing their own thing. So
yeah. So what I would suggest is 2 things. One, you don't ever need to plan more than about a session ahead, and you don't need to worry too much about every possibility. You can give the players a lot of freedom and make them feel like they have ultimate freedom, but they don't actually have ultimate freedom. And it's the way that you do that is sort of twofold. One is the details that you give when you're like describing things. If you talk about how if the players go into a tavern and you describe 2 NPCs, then they're not gonna think about talking to anybody else other than those 2 NPCs. Or if if they're in the woods, and they're walking along the path, if you describe a weird noise in the woods, that is opening up an opportunity for them to be like, let's go explore that weird thing in the woods. There's an element of like you can choose when to do that and how much to do that to kind of focus them, so you don't have to worry so much about planning for every outcome. The other thing that I would say is, this is more of a general dungeon master piece of advice. instead of worrying about planning for a story or planning for like the outcome of events, I would encourage you to plan things that are happening in the world. And you don't need to know how those things are going to end, because the players are going to interact with those things. So like, for example, let's say you have there's like a new an evil archfey is like rising in the forest, and they're trying to build a kingdom, and you're like, okay, this is a really cool idea, we're gonna have all sorts of crazy fey stuff. And you could be like, okay, so the players need to talk to this guy, so they'll figure this out, and then they could go to this tree to get these powers, and they're gonna find the stones here. You could do that, or you could just decide, okay, so if this archfey is rising in the woods, that means that there's going to be a lot more dark magic in the woods. That means that it's going to be displacing the animals, which means that there's probably going to be like more weird, like feral bear attacks in town.
I got you somewhat on that. I think I was doing a similar thing already in the campaign, because I had what the campaign originally was it was basically. It started out on something called Dwarf Island, which was basically, it was very limited, sort of almost railroady to go ahead, since I was the first time DM, give me time to, get used to everything.
Yeah.
There was this whole war thing, there's whole multiple different things, like it was basically almost like a Dwarven Mass Effect, I guess. And then it was going to expand into a whole world. And then I had to realize I had to make a whole bunch of new nations, how they would interact with each other, what nobles would be in power, what the government types would be, and this whole other stuff, and then what even the whole land would look like, why this one would be isolationist, would this people even know about it.
So you don't need to do all of that. You only need to do enough of that to make the players think that there is more to it. You only need to do enough of it for the players to understand that the world is bigger. So like, did you ever watch the show Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yes.
So I would do it like Avatar. Like they're in the ice, they're in the Arctic for a couple episodes to get ready, and then they go to the mainland. As soon as they go to the mainland, they have things that they think they know about the Fire Nation. They have things they think they know about the Earth Nation. They have things they think they know about the Northern Water Tribe. But most of that is not that accurate. And they learn that as they go. Like, they don't need to know the world. They just need to know. They don't need to know the world, and you don't need to know the world yet. All you need to know is what people think in the little bubble of the area that they are, even if they are entering into a new kingdom. It's good to have a sense of like a couple core elements of that new kingdom, like, what's a couple like moral, cultural norms or like religious practices. I mean, that sort of world building you can do as much or little as you want, just depending on how much fun it is for you. But It doesn't need to be super accurate, and it doesn't need to be super in depth, because if they go to, when they go to the mainland, even if they go to like a fairly large town, depending on like the technology level of your world, it's likely that they're not going to know that much about, the world a continent away. They might know a little bit about the region in that place, but like even in medieval fantasy, unless you're like a powerful wizard or spellcaster, you're probably not traveling that far from your hometown most of your life,
All right, and if I'll ask you one follow-up question, and then I'll concede. But if a player does get to the point of where I have no answer, or I have not, like, they've gotten to the point of where we've progressed so much in a session that it's past my notes. How would do you say just end the session there, saying I haven't planned ahead, or would you go ahead and try to just freeball it?
Okay, I think that is a question that you probably should you're going to have to figure that out for yourself, because there's not a right answer there. What I would suggest, though, is at the very least you should do two things. One, if you are tired and like out of juice, out of energy, it is 100% okay to be like, guys, this is really cool. I need to do some planning for what happens next, so I think this is a good time to end the session. And if you can see that the group is getting towards that, like if you can tell, oh god, I got like 3 bullet points of notes left and they're almost done, you can actually sort of plan for that. So to be like, okay, I know that at the end of this scene, or at the end of this combat encounter, I'm out of ideas. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to like do some narrative stuff to end it like on a big feeling, and then be like, and that's where we're gonna end for the night. So it sort of feels like it was intentional.
Or like what Critical Role does?
Yeah, just sort of feels like
Okay.
it was intentional. Like you can, you don't need to say, "Oh, I'm out of juice." You can just find a high point near the end and end it there. The other thing that I was gonna say is I do think it's worthwhile, especially if you're like especially if you still have a lot of energy or like an hour left that you would normally play, and you're like, "Oh man, I could keep going. I just don't have notes." It is worth it to try improvising. The thing that you have to be cautious of when you improvise is anything you say becomes a thing. So, like, you don't need to make crazy stuff happen. You can do small things. You can do small things. Because as soon as you say, a blimp covered in lasers lands, suddenly now you have to figure out what the fuck that is. So,
yeah, like, the last session kind of put my foot in my mouth there, because one of the players pointed something out I said, but I completely forgot.
Yeah, it's okay, man. It happens. But it's good to get into the habit of improvising, because it is such an important skill as a dungeon master, and you don't need to be great at it. You don't need to be good at it at all. You just need to be open to working on it. That's all.
Okay.
And like no one is ever great at it. Especially no one that's like not a professional. But what I was gonna say was, with that improvising, a thing that you should do, I don't know how much of a note taker you are as a dungeon master.
Oh, I still have the book here.
But it is good. The more you're improvising, the more you should be conscientious of taking notes, because you are going to forget the important bits of improvising in a way that you won't forget the important bits that you planned. So just, I would say, if you do start improvising, just be ready to be like, oh, I made up this NPC. They sound like this. This is the thing that they talked about. Just so you like can keep track of it. But yeah, those are my main thoughts. I would say, don't worry about the whole world. Just worry about enough of the world to make it feel real. And
Okay.
And that's really all you need, because your players aren't gonna like. Because the other thing that you can also do, like, I don't know how much you're doing like metagaming, but like, unless your characters are like super worldly, there's probably a lot of stuff that their characters just wouldn't know about or wouldn't even think to know about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one piece of the advice, because I was trying to get multiple information on this back when this was still somewhat alive, is Matt Mercer said you need to go ahead and plan a whole bunch of like stuff ahead. Like you want to make sure you have a preset nation, but you don't have it set where it is yet. Do you feel like that's a good thing for a first DM, or is that for a more experienced DM? Like having stuff pre-made and then just like in your little toolbox, and then able to go ahead and meld it how you see fit.
That really just depends on how you like to play. I think that as a dungeon master, especially if you're doing it like for your friends, and it's like a home game, you should do as much planning as you enjoy doing. So if you are having a lot of fun world building and it doesn't feel like work, then world build forever. But if it's as soon as it feels like work, that means you have done enough and you don't need to do anymore.
All right. Thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, man, no problem. Thanks for calling in. Love a first-time caller.
All right. Thank you. You have a good rest of your stream.
Thank you. Don't be a stranger. Bye. All right. He's out of here. Oh, shoot. Is that Yermi? Yo, guys, we're about to bring on one of my OG... Sam Peterson art! Sam, what's up, my dude? Sam, I don't live on Twitch anymore. I'm a YouTube boy now. Guys, Sam Peterson art is a friggin' fantastic artist. If you type in Sam Peterson art into Google, you will find his wild art, and he makes crazy stuff. How's it going, dude? Anyway, I'm gonna grab Yermi. Yeah, I've been doing YouTube streams, man. I have so many more followers on YouTube. It just makes more sense. Yermi.
Hi, Cinder.
Yermi, it's been so long. Yermi you're my first mod, I think.
I'm not one of. I know I was old. I know I'm an old one. But
you
yeah.
and Orakami, I think, are my two OGs, and then Delport was quick after, I think.
Yeah.
How's it going, man?
It's been going good. Going good. Schoolwork's a lot, but it's coming to an end soon. So.
Almost freedom.
Almost freedom.
Cool.
Almost
cool.
freedom.
What can I help you with today, my champion?
So, yeah. So my call for on the hotline today is about one of the villains in my campaign
Mm-hmm.
and trying to kind of feel him out in a sense is the best way to get it, because I'm still in the slightly pre-workings. It's started, but they haven't exactly I'm trying to find the word for it, ventured out. It's still very early,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I still
yeah.
have a lot of time
You're
to
planting seeds. I got you.
yeah. And so I have an idea for it, but I don't know how to like move forward with it, I guess, is
Cool.
the best way
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
describe it. So, I mean, I guess to help you is to tell you what the villain is.
Yeah,
So
let me hear about him.
the first thing. So, haven't exactly figured out quite the name yet. That's always the hard part. But I do know the concept of it, which is a sorry, trying to explain the words. A sentient displacer beast kind of got walloped into the material plane
Mm-hmm.
and is currently at least work the owner slash boss of a mafia group esque.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the main goal, I guess, at least for him, is to figuring out a way to get back to the pleasantries of the Feywilds.
So
Is the main
he's
goal.
a smart displacer beast.
Yes, they are very very sentient. Yeah, he is at least sentient.
Okay. So I think here's what I would say. Here's what I think.
Mhm.
I think you should think about a couple things about this clever displacer beast mafia guy. One, he should have a silly voice for sure. Even if he's not silly, because sometimes a silly voice, especially in a not silly character, is like pretty intense. And a Feywild mafiosa, like that is, come on now, that's just like you're gonna have a silly voice. The second thing I think you should think about is, like, are there sentient animals and creatures that like live in your world? Like, is that normal that like there would be a displacer beast that would have people that like worked for them, or is that like weird?
It's kind of weird for the at least the current area that they are in.
Okay, so I think then you should maybe spend a little bit of time thinking about like, what would this displacer beast need to do in order to get to that place of power? Like, especially if it's like a little, because it's gonna need to be different than like a normal mafia person, kind of, because they're not a person. So perhaps their henchmen are like really creepy, weird outsider cultist types that like, like what if instead of them having like a clan of like sort of traditional like, hey, we're get out of here, over here, tough guys.
Yeah.
What if they were like, they ran themselves like a mafia family, but they were like a motley crew of all of the weird sewer cult bad guys that like were totally unorganized and but also willing to like talk to a sentient displacer beast, and that this sentient displacer beast like organized them so that maybe even like the other mob families like really don't like them because they're like creepy, but like it's sort of like they become, because he's like able to collect all of these different weird crews, it actually makes his crew like way tougher than the other ones, because it's like, yeah, you guys might like be really good at like sitting in restaurants and assassinating people, but I got a guy that can talk to ooze, so like we got ooze, like it could be kind of like that. The other thing that I would say is you should definitely make this guy have some, you should think about like one or two aspects of the material world that are distinctly different from the Feywild that this displacer beast hates, like that he is repulsed by, as sort of like a way to like give him, like, it's more than just like I want to go home. There's like a distaste for this place, and then conversely, maybe one or two things from the material plane that he's like weirdly obsessed with, that like just to give him like a little bit of like a flavor as like a rounded out character a little bit, like and I also think that when you have characters that have like a thing that they're obsessed with and things that they obsessively hate, they become a lot more unhinged and scary seeming. That's where my head goes. My head goes in those directions. I would, in a weird sort of way, I would almost like keep the fact that he's a displacer beast like low key. Like I don't think that should be like
the main thing.
Like do your players know that he's a displacer beast?
No.
So they shouldn't. That should be like a weird reveal.
Yeah, they only know like his title, really. Like they've heard about his title, really. But other than that, they have like no clue about him. They know like of some of his quote unquote enforcers, which are, like you said, they're a bunch of like weirdos and stuff like that don't really make sense among the world. Like one of them is like a undead boxer.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect,
boxer,
dude. Perfect. Perfect.
Like, can't even speak, and just a bunch of weird guys that like are kind of trying to find a home and are like kind of out of their element in the material plane.
Yeah. Olivia said, do the underlings know that he is a displacer beast? I think that that's something you could play with too, like how many of people in his inner circle actually know what he is. And a way that you could fuck with that is you could have him have like a person that sits in the chair where the boss should sit, and he, because he's a displacer beast, like sort of sits lounging, you know, sort of like the boss has a pet displacer beast, but the pet displacer beast is actually the boss. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
In case they do have like an encounter, you could sort of play it like that as like a little bit of a foreshadowing. Also, if they don't really know what a displacer beast is, or if they do, see, even if the guy in the chair was the boss, that's a really cool way to indicate this guy is fucking scary. He's got a pet displacer beast. You know? But it's actually going to be him. I would do something like that. Because then you could have a cool moment where they assassinate the boss, and then the boss, you know, just is like, it turns out to be like a simulacrum or something, and everyone's like, the fuck? And then like this displacer beast is like, it was me! And gets him. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, like, a second part to that, like on building up the boss and stuff like that, is like the idea around that is that they're working for like an old adventure in sorts that they in the town that they ended up landing in and stuff like that, and they're going to the different cities that are run by the different enforcers and stuff like that. And I'm just trying to make it feel like I'm not grindy, to say the least. Like but like intriguing without like being a drag, I think.
The way to do that is to just make sure that the situations that they encounter these things are different enough in terms of like the style of combat or the challenge of encounter. Like some of them could be straight up combat encounters, some of them could be more role play or like almost like almost like puzzle solving, where it's like, let's see if we can figure out how to, like, you know, poison the well or something like that. Or and then just having a diversity of creature types in terms of what they're encountering, like, you know, making sure
like
there's really bunch of badass archers. This one has a pet giant snake or whatever.
Like for the undead champion or whatever, they take place in a town based around like sound and crystals and stuff like that. So all of their like grunts and stuff like that, they use like sound technology and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that'll be enough. I think that as long as there's something cool and slightly different flavored for a while, like it'll be good. I think that'll be solid.
Gotcha. All right.
Because it only really becomes grindy when you feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again.
Over and over again.
Yeah, when you're getting to try different tools, when you're getting to face challenges that feel different, it doesn't really feel grindy, in my opinion.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Cinder. It's been a pleasure talking to you again after so long.
I know, it's been a hot sec.
I know, but always great to see you and talk to you at least.
All right.
Well, Have a great rest of your day.
You too, buddy. All right, get out of here. All right, that was Yermi. Yermi's an OG champion. All right, let me get Recluse. Reclusive Reader, you are deafened and muted in the Discord, but you are now in the chat with me. So you're gonna need to undeafen and unmute if you want to if you want to come on stream. Undeafen and unmute if you want to come on stream. I will answer a question. You left. Oh, interesting. Why did you leave? Get out of here, Ben Walls. All right, there you go. All right, I'll pull you in now. Hello, reclusive reader. Can you hear me? You're muted. Hello.
Yeah, sorry, I've been in the Discord.
No problem. How's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's it going?
Yeah, sorry, I had to mute the stream because
yeah, it gets fucking crazy.
Well.
Yeah, it gets really hectic when you can hear it at the same time. How's it going today?
Yeah, just fine. Well, first off, I guess thanks for reviewing my piece. I'm in chat as Matt Thorne. A couple days ago, I did the modified Helm of Brilliance.
Yeah, that was a really interesting one. I felt like that was a really good example of how you can tone down an item, and it kind of made me second guess the Helm of Brilliance as an item in general because of the issues that of it just having like so many charges in weird ways. But I liked that tone down a lot with color spray and just focusing in on different ways that the light cut through crystals. I thought was very cool.
Yeah, I toned down. Now it's only like first I had like it blinds people when it breaks. And now it only blinds the user when it breaks because I didn't want to be as confusing. I already removed like the D10s, made them D4s. So now at most they have like 4 hallucinatory terrains instead of 5 on average.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but I'm not actually talking about that now. But thanks for the feedback.
Of course.
I was thinking about another homebrew. I'm actually sort of tinkering with sort of rogue, holy rogue, sort of, I guess, a hitman for a church or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking having some sort of charges, like holy dice or something, divine dice.
Mm-hmm.
That would fuel like a couple of things. And I was thinking of, instead of having like based on a modifier or proficiency, I was thinking about having like the sneak attack dice pool for it. And I was just thinking, does that scale too far?
Let me take a look.
Because it starts off at like 3rd level as 2 dice. And then it goes up to like 10, I think. Yeah.
Let me double check. Give me 2 seconds.
Because I think it's 1 per 2 levels.
Yeah, it starts at 2. It would start at 2, and then it would go up to 10, and it goes up every like 2 levels. So you're gonna be, a good way to think about it is it's going to scale a little bit better than proficiency bonus. So I think that could totally work. I think what you need to think about is there are some classes in D&D that get features that are like almost like scaled with proficiency bonus. The thing that comes to mind is the I forget what it's called, the Psychic Knight, I think gets that. It's a fighter subclass. Let me check really quickly. The Psy Warrior.
I assume they were more like the Battle Master because they have like.
So the Psy Warrior gets their charges equal to twice their proficiency bonus.
Oh, okay. So that would be 12 at max.
Yeah, so what I would suggest doing is peeking at the Psy Warriors subclass features, like the things that they can spend their dice on, and see how where your powers want to line up with those. The other thing that is different is that the Psy Warriors dice also get bigger. They start as a D6 and then they go up to a D12. So if you did sneak attack, I mean, I guess you could have them go up bigger too, but sneak attack dice don't inherently go up.
Yeah.
But I think that could totally be possible.
D6 pool.
I think it's a fun idea having it based off of sneak attack. The other thing that if it's based off of sneak attack, then it will not scale with multi-classing. If that's
True,
that's the only
another thing I
downside
did
or
think
upside.
about.
It's up or downside depending on how you look at it.
I mean, it's an upside if I want to gatekeep stronger features to that class, but it's a downside if I want to allow any sort of multi-classing, of course.
Yeah.
Because I have only 2 features I'm really sort of right now certain on that I'm actually somewhat trying to figure out. One of them would be to like a sort of semi-lay on hands that you could do a cure wounds by rolling a d6, maybe add a modifier and heal just that one dice. And then another, I was thinking like a reaction to make one source of damage ignore resistance. Sort of divine retribution.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. The only thing that I would say to that is, this is very specific for rogues, but rogues get a feature at either 5th or 7th level where they can use their reaction to half the damage to one incoming attack.
True.
So I would just be cognizant of building features that take up action economy space similar to like key class.
The thing
features.
with rogues is that they are very, because of the uncanny dodge, which I think is 7th level.
It's 5th. Chad is saying it's 5th.
Is it 5th? Okay. Well, 5th level. Well, at 5th level, every rogue has that, and then they have all the bonus action stuff they can do. And of course, they probably want to use their action to attack, because sneak attack, of course. So I think regardless of the action economy, the rogue always wants to do something else as well.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. Another thing that you might want to think about is if you are really interested in tying the subclass to the rogue features, you could tie the charge mechanic to bonus action, like to using cunning action. So you could do something like, when you use your cunning action to take the dash action, you can expend a charge and grow celestial wings and have a fly speed until the end of your turn or something like that. So like you can lean into the action economy of the rogue. Like for example, you wouldn't be able to give this feature at 3rd level because it would affect uncanny dodge, but if you wanted to go with that divine retribution, you could make it so when you use uncanny dodge to half damage from an incoming attack, the mitigated damage like bounces back onto the target or something like that,
Yeah.
But I think that's a cool idea. I think a sort of holy rogue is a very very solid concept for something that rogues don't really have right now. And I would almost encourage you to get more specific than just holy rogue and try to figure out like where you want this thing to sit in like the vibe of holy rogue. Like, is this a inquisitor style, like I am going out and destroying evil, or is this like a like is this a holy rogue in the way that like paladins go out and smite things, or is it a holy rogue in the way that like a celestial warlock is like sort of a healer buffer type warlock,
Interesting. I was definitely thinking more of either the Inquisitor sort of thing, or more like this is the guy the church sends when there's someone has done something bad, or that they are like a religious fanatic that thinks their actions are the divine retribution. Sorry.
Yeah,
English like my 3rd language.
That's fine. Don't even worry about it. Listen, English is my 1st language, and I'm terrible at it. Another thing that I think you should consider doing, if you haven't thought about, is you should make it so at 3rd level, when they sneak attack, they can choose for the sneak attack to be radiant damage.
I did think about that.
It's not going to be huge, but it will affect things minorly.
It's not huge, but I also thought, why would I want that? Yeah, I would want to get past. I mean, of course, it's flavorful, but I would want to get past like resistances.
Well, that's why I would say you give them a choice. Let them choose to.
Yeah, but I thought if I give them the option to get rid of resistances, like with the reaction, that sounds sort of pointless. But I could add it, of course. Just why not?
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts or questions on it? I mean, it sounds like a cool, solid idea to me.
Yeah, no, not really. I just want like get your feedback specifically on like the resource. Is it too many dice?
No, I don't think it's too many dice. I think you're gonna have to make the. I think you're gonna have to make the things that you do with the charges, basically along the same power level as the Psy Warrior or like a Battle Master maneuver. So like not crazy strong. But I also think that they should feel different. Like they should feel like divine magic. So I think you doing things like healing. I would also consider doing things like if another good example to look at if you're trying to do more of like the I'm going out and being the justice. I would look at the light cleric, because the light cleric has kind of those vibes of like purify you through fire. So maybe consider doing some like blinding stuff, some burning stuff, that kind of thing. I would lean in those directions.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it. Thank
cool,
you.
Man. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for calling. That's a fun idea. All right, get out of here. How do I? There we go. He's out of here. A holy rogue. I love a holy rogue. I think a holy rogue is great. Oh, it could also, you know what? Another thing is it could be you could make it a quarter caster. Oh, that's different. I wouldn't do that. Just make it resource based. Okay, let me grab Coetus. Hello. Ahoy hoy. Hello. Hello. You are in the stream chat. Quatus, Quatus, Quatus. Kuaetus. 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 Kuae. Hello? Hello? I can't hear you. Is your microphone connected? Nope, I can't hear you, and the light is not green. You are not connected correctly with your microphone. Do you know how to change it? Do you need help? I can't change it for you. You might have push to talk activated. You might have your microphone connected to the wrong thing. I am unsure. You don't know? Well, okay. Go to user setting under your name, and then go to voice and video, and then see if you have push to talk active. See if you have voice active. Make sure your headphones are plugged into the right thing. And that's how you do that. I will give you a couple seconds to figure that out. Hey, Patrick, I see you. You can unmute if you want to.
Yo, how's it going?
How's it going, man?
Good. I was just hanging out and listening.
1 second. Quatus, you can still set that up on your phone. If you're on your phone, you still need to make sure your microphone might not be connected. And if you probably need to not be watching stream, and you probably just need to be in Discord. But I'm gonna give you like 10 more seconds to figure it out, and then I'm gonna go to somebody else. What's up, Pat?
Just chilling, man. Just finished some prep, listed into some of the call-ins.
Are you enjoying them?
Yeah. I liked the one about the like paralysis in the world building. That one spoke to my soul, where it's like one of the first things you got to learn how to do as a DM is not let yourself get paralyzed by world building.
Yeah. It's rough. I mean, I think that I actually don't have this problem in the way that everyone else seems to, but I think it comes down to the where my energy sits when I'm being a dungeon master.
Yeah, likewise.
Like I get energized by my players' excitement. I don't get energized by sitting in a room by myself, building a world. Like I usually do most of my world building after session 1. Like I have like basic stuff, but like I sort of have to learn what the players are excited to lean into and to get excited to do the work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I feel 100% the same way. Like I'm fundamentally too lazy to kind of do like full-blown world building that my players are not necessarily going to be interested in. But I think it comes from a place of like almost insecurity. A lot of world building is like, I feel like I need to have every corner painted in so that if anybody asks me a question, I have an answer and I don't need to like stop and think about it.
Yeah.
Which does come back to like practicing improv. You don't have to be amazing at improv, but like you do need to have that tool in your arsenal if you're gonna DM and not go crazy over it.
Yeah. All right. Coetus, I don't know what's going on. You're gonna have to figure that out. I'm gonna disconnect you. It looks like people in chat might be trying to help you out. I'm disconnecting you from the call, but if you want to, hopefully maybe people can kick you out. Oh, looks like you left the call on your own. There you go, buddy. All right. Good luck to you on your figuring that out. In the next, we have up a name that is in Russian, and I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm going to bring them in. Hello. I don't know how to pronounce your name because it's letters I don't know. Hello. Ahoy hoy.
Hello there.
Hi, how's it going?
Howdy.
It's going great. I just want to say that I'm sorry if my English is going to be particularly bad.
Oh, don't worry. It's fine. It's fine.
Yes, you can see from my name. It's not my first language. So I have like written down 4 questions. I don't know if I will have enough time here, because I don't want to steal time from everyone else. So then I'll just start.
Pick the one that you want answered the most first.
Yeah.
Okay. The biggest problem for me right now is that in my games I have a problem with building a narrative. I have run a Curse of Strat campaign, but it was really, really bad. Even though players really enjoyed it, I think it's mostly because they never really played DnD, and it was somewhat their first experience with ttrpg at all. And right now I'm running like an underdog campaign, and I think it's doing better, but I'm not sure even why. So by narrative I mean that there's a structure to the story, that players know what they're doing and why they're doing that. My Curse of Strand campaign had this problem that they were just going places because, well, it was on a map and they had like some personal things there, and it was the only motivation. I'm not like telling a shorthand of a short part of the story. It's literally just their words in this case. And there comes a problem that in this campaign that's going right now, I'm also struggling to make like a narrative. There's a story about like a colony of mind flayers that's trying to manipulate settlements into going into war and everything. But I just have too much ideas as I can say in this moment. Just so I put everything there. There's like a small colony of kobolds under the city. There's like a espionage plot from the drow elves from the nearby city. There's like the personal plot of players that want to join this faction, this clan of wizard dwarfs. And there's like a lot of personal plots that just don't really connect into something that is for the whole party, and I'm not sure how to do it. I don't have an algorithm for that. I don't want an answer how to do it in this particular option, but I just don't get what should I do to to see if it's connected or not.
So my first thought is two things. One, I don't think everything needs to be connected. It kind of depends on the type of game that you want to run. If you and your players are enjoying a game that is mostly just a big world where there's a lot of different things going on, and the player character and the characters are kind of weaving in and out of things, then the story is kind of the journey of the characters. It doesn't need to be the story of the conflict. The conflicts, the kobolds, the mind flayers, all of these things can just be part of the larger journey of the characters. And that can be fine. And in those games, the players have to kind of build the growth and development and goals on their own. And you can encourage that, but it does start to need to come from them more. Alternatively, if you wanted to have more of a focused story and you just have too many ideas, I think that you need to just pick one idea and make something happen in the world that makes that idea become the thing that the players need to deal with, and not really worry about the other ones and focus on that. Like, if you are really interested in the Mind Flayer plot, I would not do anything really with the kobolds or with the drow in a big way. Maybe there's some minor moments, but I wouldn't make them come up in big ways. And then what you could do is toward the end of the Mind Flayer arc, if you know you want to do the drow next, or maybe you want to do a player plot next, you could have something happen in the Mind Flayer arc that foreshadows, oh, something is happening with the drow, or oh, this person's backstory is going to start being relevant soon. But I think it's more of like, for me, it's like the more things you put on the table, the more options you make, the harder it is to tie them together.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I understand that I just really need to get my ADHD medicated, which is pretty difficult in my country, for honest.
The other thing that I would say is you can do a lot in a small space. So, like, let's say you're focusing on the Mind Flayer plot. There could be 20 different things happening in that Mind Flayer plot. There could be people who have intellect devourers that have taken them over and are, like, doing weird stuff in town. There could be strange eldritch experiments underground. There could be, like spooky stuff in the woods. You can make a lot of things happen, and whatever the players choose, you can have it direct back to Mind Flayers, but it still gives you a lot of that space to do weird ideas. Mind Flayers are actually really good, I think, for somebody that's a little ADHD minded, because so much of what they do is like take over other creatures. So you can sort of use any monster and anything if you're using Mind Flayers, because all they have to do is put an intellect devourer in a thing and it becomes a Mind Flayer eventually, or not that way, but they become control of it.
That's actually a great idea that I never thought of.
Yeah, like imagine like ogres start attacking the town, and then when the ogre dies, like its head splits open and like the brain grows legs and starts running away. Like they're not gonna know what's going on.
There's actually was a precedent for this kind of plot twist with one of the characters in the start of the campaign, but I think I discarded it too early, and that it can truly like how can I say it in English? Tie everything together. I think it's really cool that they have tools for that. I think I can start with the second question. It actually kind of comes from the first one. The plot right now, the big picture of it, that the mind flayers are pushing the Drow, their big cities, their big kingdom, as I can say, into war with the Dwarvish kingdom. The players right now are helping the clans in the Dwarvish kingdom to get empowered to defend the city from this war. And I think that it's moving into the direction that they're not really trying to stop the war, they're just trying to prepare for it. The players chose to do it that way, and it will lead to things that I have no experience. Massive battles. I don't know how to run like this epic massive battles in D&D, because yes, I have like North Arcana rules for running troops and everything, but they don't feel right, because my party is pretty much heroic adventurers, and they would probably not feel like heroes if they were just back in the way commanded troops. So I want them to be in the thick of it, but they're just like not in the 10th and 15th level. The war is going to be like when they're level 7. So they will have enough health and resources, but not like for a siege of a city. I don't want them to feel like they can like cleave through entire hordes of the enemies, but I don't want them to feel useless. This battle.
I have a question, and it's there's not really a wrong answer to this question, but I'm curious as to you said that they were maybe going to be up to level sort of 15 when this was going to be happening. Did I hear that right?
No, he said they're going to be level 7.
They're gonna
level 7. Okay.
7 or 8.
7 or 8. And so I guess my question is like, is there a particular reason why you don't want them to be able to feel like they can cleave through like entire hordes? And I get that you certainly want to present a challenge kind of overall. But what I'm thinking about in my head is that like by the time that you're 7th level, generally in D&D, you are so extraordinarily more powerful than your average person. And in these big sort of siege kind of experiences, certainly there are going to be people who have some combat training, some maybe even extraordinary combat training, but most people are just going to be bodies, right? Like you're talking about commoners in leather armor. And so that gap could probably be represented by them being able to cleave through sort of hordes at least a wave or two of kind of lowly soldiers, which might help them feel like they're these, kind of larger than life characters in that moment. Is there a reason why that doesn't satisfy for what you want your game to do?
The reason is that they somewhat are afraid of the army of Drow elves. It's just their expectation that it's not gonna be easy. It's just how they expect, and I feel it's like dramatically undermines the story if they like expect that it's gonna be a struggle, and they join the battle and just cleave through the entire army.
My immediate thought, and certainly there's no right way to sort of do this, but I would say that there might be a fun moment to be had there where that subversion of expectations may lead to something even more fun, where if they show up to the fight and their preparations are so thoroughly rewarded that they actually do really well at first, that might put them in a position of letting their guard down a little bit, at which point you can put specific individual stat blocks, maybe a small group of higher CR monsters or a single larger kind of commander entity up against them in a way that almost sandbags them a little bit, and their confidence is kind of shaken. And that can really, those sorts of moments can really push the tension where their expectations are subverted. And so I think that you don't have to shy away from something like that because you can use it kind of as a tool to control the flow.
Yeah, I also
I
think that.
think my experience. Sorry.
I was gonna say I also think that it can be a really scary fight, and they can still be good at slaying bad guys. I think of like the Battle of Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings, where it's like those orcs are intimidating, but Gimli is able to hold the bridge for a couple minutes by himself. But that doesn't mean that the orcs aren't intimidating. You can like numbers play a big part of it. And the other thing that I was going to suggest, which is a little divergent, but it's similar to what Patrick was saying at the end, is you can kind of pick important moments that you focus in on for them to participate in the battle. If you don't want to do these, if you don't want to have them like running things from behind, where it's like, okay, there is this thing happening here. Like if you guys, like if you, this wall needs protecting. If that matters to you, you guys can be at this wall. And then if they're at that wall and then they prevent that wall from getting destroyed, that has like an impact on the battle, as opposed to if they're not at that wall, or if they need to like run away and the wall gets destroyed, now suddenly the battle moves like inside or something like that. So you can sort of make like little encounters that they can decide how to invest in, whether that's through their spells or just being there and being present. And have that sort of shape the larger ebbs and flows of the battle.
Yeah, I think my experience in running massive battles shows here. I really like Patrick's line of thought. It really can how can I say it? It's somewhat freeing in the fact that I can push up the dramatic tension with putting a stronger enemy after like hordes or just regular soldiers that they can clip.
It's a little like a Shadow of Mordor.
Kinda, yeah.
That means that I can put a lot more different encounters in there, but I'm also worried that the battle will be too long and they will not have enough resources for it. Like even if they cleave through hordes of enemies, I'm not sure how to expect how many resources and how many health they will have in later stages of the battle. But because I think I want to I want for it to be long, like take the entire session, which is like 5 hours for my group, 5 to 4 hours, and they don't have like infinite health in this instance, but I want for it to in these situations, like when they fight stronger like commanders or demons like Yoclol, such stuff like that, that it hits hard, but I don't want to spend the entire resource pool because they will have another encounter right around the corner.
Yeah, I think part of that will just be up to them, just trying to pace themselves in the same way that they would if they were going through a dungeon. Because it's basically, a battle is basically just a dungeon, right? It's just several different rooms, but they're all in the larger same space. The other thing that you can also do is if they are really running low on resources and they're all about to die and you're like, God damn it, there needs to be one more encounter here, they could get reinforcements. There can always be some dwarven guardsmen that join them. Somebody could come with some health potions. You know what I mean? Like you can make it so that the army that they're fighting on the side of is a part of helping keeping them up if you need to do that.
Yeah,
another thing that I
think I can understand that. Yeah, I had like mana potions that were restoring some spell slots in my one shot. I think I can steal it from myself for the just to, not only health potions but also spell slots and everything, just to help them with that.
Yeah, I think it's a good
idea.
idea.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Another One last thought before you go that I would say is, kind of to when Cinder said, battles are basically just dungeons, especially big battles like this that you can hold in mind is just like, if you have a non-combat goal for the party where combat is the problem that sits in between them and the goal, then you can move that around to fit the pacing, where the solution isn't win the war, but it's instead maybe kill the lead commander or find the artifact. If the battle is happening too quickly, you can have that artifact quietly have been moved to somewhere more secure, or you can have the commander have been actually out in the field the whole time, and it's not where they expected it to be. And that can help to stretch or contract things as you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I understand it. So I don't have time for any more questions.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to the next one. But thank you so much for calling.
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too.
Oh, that was a wonderful fellow. Man, I am so bad at large combat. I very rarely run it.
It's really hard. It's really hard. You almost have to just have it be set dressing for small combat.
That is how I run it. I basically make scenes that happen amidst the battle.
Yeah.
And again, I avoid it whenever possible. But people love it when it works well. It can be really fun. All right, let's pull in the next person. This is Seal Watson. Seal Watson, hello. Hello, Seal Watson. Hello? I can't hear you. I don't know if you can connect your microphone, or if you are just not able to. You are not connecting on your microphone. You might have push to talk set up, and you're not pushing to talk. You might have your microphone set to something else. I'm not sure. I don't know, but I'm going to give you a couple seconds to figure it out. You can click the little gear button next to your username, and you can see voice and video and see if you have push to talk on. I'm not sure. The second host is Patrick. Say hi, Patrick.
Howdy, howdy. How y'all doing?
Patrick is my dungeon master for Rally. If you guys have not checked out the podcast, Unbalanced Encounters, what are you doing with your life? Why haven't you checked it out? It's what a podcast it is. And Patrick is a very, very good dungeon master and a very smart fellow, and he is the other side of my coin in many situations.
We have a little fun.
We do. Seal, I don't know what's happening. I can't hear you. You're not going green at all, which means that your microphone is just not connected, or you need to do push to talk and you're not doing it. So I'm going to disconnect from you, and I wish you luck in figuring that out. And hopefully you will be able to do that. All right. Next, we're going to bring up the author. Please ping. Hey, the author. How do I ping you? I'm just going to do ping. There you go. I pinged you. Are you going to be able to join? That's the question.
We are having trouble.
I don't know. Goodness. I pinged him. Looks like the author's not connecting either, unless his voice is about to come up here. Yo, guys, if you have push to talk set up, you need to turn that shit to regular, or connect on your computer, or know how to do push to talk. I don't know how. The author, we can't hear you. Your microphone is not set up. Your microphone is not set up. Your microphone is not connecting. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. He knows he's here. He unmuted, but he did not say anything, which makes me feel like his microphone's not set up. It might not be 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 set up. All right.
I wonder if Discord changed something.
I don't know. A bunch of other people came in fine.
Yeah.
Right, the author.
100%.
Good luck, buddy. I don't know what's happening. You got to change your settings so it's not push to talk, or make it so Discord is able to connect. I don't know. You're wonderful though. All right, I'm hanging up on you. All right, let's go to the next one. Is S something? S who? S ... All right, let's find S ... There they are. All right. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going good, thank you. Yeah, doing good.
Thanks for giving us a call.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you giving me the time. I had two questions. One silly, one not so much. The first one, I'm a very inexperienced dungeon master, and I want to want to run a game, and I sort of looked at the typical hurdles of dungeon mastering, scheduling, timing, getting people in the same place, and I sort of am working on a concept for a game that could be played drop in, drop out, where the players there would be some sort of settlement that they would all be at for whatever reason, and they would be sort of bound to it, and they would go on excursions from it, exploring the land, discovering the world, and then they would affect the settlement with their actions as it progressed. But it would be in such a way that I could have multiple groups on multiple adventures, and people can drop in and drop out as and when they please.
Sure.
If that makes sense. But I, being a very inexperienced dungeon master, I ran like one game 3 years ago. I don't know where to start with any of it, and I was sort of wondering.
I've got some great news for you. I have some great news for you. You're gonna. Yeah? This is either gonna help you or make you annoyed.
Okay.
Have you heard the term West Marches before?
No, never.
So the type of campaign you're describing exists, and it is called a West Marches campaign, which is basically a campaign that is designed to have between one group and like 20 people, where it is the world keeps moving, but players can dip in and out. Things can change. They can affect each other. It is exactly what you're looking for. I have never run one, but there are very good comprehensive guides on running West Marches campaigns and ideas for them online. So I would strongly encourage you to just search for resources using the term West Marches campaign, running a West Marches campaign, something like that, because they exist. I don't know how hard they are to run, but there's plenty of tools by people that have been running them successfully for a while.
Okay, sweet. That was a lot quicker than I was expecting. The other thing was more goofy, but I keep seeing this is meme going around at the minute, the Shadow Wizard Money Gang. I don't know if you've seen that.
I don't know anything about anything. What's the Shadow Wizard Money Gang?
It's like a producer tagline. It's ridiculous, but it gave me the idea because I've always thought like rogues, your typical thieves and stealers, and they break in and do robberies, but like a wizard just does it better in every way. You can go invisible, you can charm people, you can see invisibility, you can dispel magic, you can cast silence, like you can do everything sneak wise and thievy wise better than a rogue. And so I like the idea of a one shot of a group of wizards who are prolific thieves for hire. They're going in into dangerous places and break-ins and sort of covert. But instead of rogues, it's wizards, because I think they're just better at it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's so much a question. I just sort of.
It would be a fun idea. Here's an idea that I think would be fun.
Okay.
If you have an adventuring party, let's say you have a group of players, and you have a rogue, and you have a ranger, and you have a bard, and you have a barbarian or whatever. They should encounter a group of rival adventurers that are all wizards, but the wizards have very specific spells and subclasses picked so that their powers are the same. So like there should be one wizard that is entirely devoted to essentially being a barbarian, one wizard and you can make them like rivals of the party.
Okay.
And they can just be like, fuck you guys, wizards are better. That's what I would do.
Good.
Have like a rival group that's just like, rogues suck, wizards rule. Oh, you're a paladin? Go fuck yourself. Steel Wind Strike. Suck a D. They could just be really obnoxious, and they could be really pro wizard. I would make them high five each other. They should constantly like high five and like just like they should be like bro wizards.
So
is what I would do. That's how I would do that.
Wizard gang,
so
yeah.
I have a thought that's almost the opposite of that. For Cinder. But when you were talking about this, it occurred to me that it would be a tremendous amount of fun to run a game, and everyone would have to be up for this, right? So you'd have to talk about it beforehand, but run a game where the expectation was like a bunch of scholarly wizards that are, you started at level 1, they're low-level wizards, but they're like installed in like an academic institution, they're learning their craft and practicing their craft, realize that they could make a lot more goddamn money if they just all slotted into the position of like an adventuring or thieving party.
I like
an all wizards campaign.
I love the idea of an all wizards campaign, because the challenges are interesting. Wizards are inherently very strong, so you can throw fairly strong things at them.
Well, at a certain point, right? Like, because at level.
Oh yeah, but initially,
at level
it's just
one, not so much.
it's a bunch of stick men throwing firebolts at people, you know.
It's fucking great.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. All right, buddy. That's a great
All right.
idea.
Well, sweet. You answered my question ridiculously fast, so thank you very much.
Yeah, no
have a
problem.
good evening.
Don't be a
Thanks for having
stranger.
me.
Come back anytime.
Oh well.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers. Have a good one.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, the author. I see you, Cosmic. I'll try it again. I pulled you back in. Cosmic, I pulled you in. Unmute. Let's see if it worked this time. You said you got your stuff set up. Hello?
Are we working?
It's working.
Let's go.
How's it going, buddy?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about all that. Glad I'm here. All right. So the long and short of it is I am DMing a campaign that starts this Friday that's heavy leaning into homebrew. And I might have dug myself a bit of a grave because I went all in. I am planning on making 9 entire new classes from scratch to accommodate the setting.
Wait, you're making 9 new what from scratch?
Classes.
Why?
Because the year is 2882, and by this time, all the classes from OG D&D are basically outdated. They don't really fit the theme, and none of their abilities would make sense with what the rest of the characters in the campaign can do. Now,
do
for
their
the most
abilities
part,
not... Wait a minute. Let's slow down.
Yeah.
Do their abilities not work from the perspective of the flavor, or do they not work from the perspective of the mechanics?
Flavor.
So then why not just reflavor them? Why do you need to build them from scratch? That's so much work.
So
Are you enjoy? Like if you want to do it, I guess it's fine, but that's so much work.
Yeah. For the most part, I kind of have this nailed. It's just that I'm struggling with the finer details. The basic idea for how all the classes work and a lot of their primary features are done. And all my players already have their characters created based on these classes and have a good idea of what their abilities are and how they're going to scale. The biggest issue I'm having is that I'm now just 2 days before the campaign started, realize I want to tone down some of what I already have, and I want to bring them back to kind of D&D level, because I started off with making them just powerful and not really worrying about balance. Now I want to get to balancing and refining in a short span of time, and I was wondering if there's any sort of, tips that I could have.
Have you run a session with them using these yet?
I have run some session zeros with some of the characters, not all of them yet, but I'm going to get around to it. And so far, they've been fun, they've been interesting. But like I said, it's mostly about those finer details and that finer balance that I'm trying to get done.
So here's... Making a D&D class is a lot like moving. The big furniture, all the giant things get done relatively quickly a lot of the time, but those little details take twice as long as everything else. So those finer details of balance, those are the things that are going to take time to figure out, and honestly play testing. So what I would say, the solution that I would say is be very frank with your players. Say, hey, we kind of came into this knowing that I'm making all these things from scratch. We have no idea how balanced they are. In order to make this game work, we all have to agree that it's okay to change your characters, so it's like that we can tweak these as we go. If that feature seems like it's way too powerful 2 sessions in, we're going to tone it down. And if the players are comfortable with that, then just do it as you go and don't worry about it. If the players are like, I don't want to have to change my character if they're too strong, then I think you need to decide to not do homebrew stuff. because
you have to treat the whole campaign like it's a playtest, because you haven't done the playtest, and there's just not a way to shortcut that, right? Like, it just comes up naturally, and there's not a formula you can follow for whole new mechanics the way that you sometimes can if you're reusing or leaning on the backbone of an existing class.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right, that kind of answers that question. I think I can handle that. But another thing, and this isn't something I've had a problem with, but just something I'm more curious on how other people tackled it is, and I know you've talked about this in some of your shorts before, but guns in D&D. Because of the fact that it's the year 2882 in my campaign, and there's a lot of futuristic weaponry, balancing like super futuristic guns, I've had a little bit of trouble.
You don't need to go. Okay, so Mage Hand Press has a book called Dark Matter. It has a fantastic sci-fi gun combat system that includes different types of guns with all sorts of different features and different actions you can take with them, like covering fire and stuff. It handles laser guns, handles machine guns, handles all of it. It's a very good system. I would just look that up and use that. Dark Matter by Mage Hand Press. It's a really good book. In the briefest of nutshells, the way that they handle things like laser guns and guns is that they deal more damage with the dice, but you don't add any modifier. So like with a bow and arrow, it's 1d8 plus your dex modifier damage. The laser pistol might just do 2d6 radiant damage, but no bonuses. But they also sometimes will have extra features and stuff. And usually also like either an element of like overheating where like they need to cool down after being shot too many times, or like the potential to break or things like that.
What about it is that only certain classes are able to have guns because they're a little harder to master since they're more complicated, and that the ammo used for them is very expensive. So if a character wants to use that as their main form of attack and weaponry, sure, they'll get high damage output and stuff like that, but they'll miss out on being able to use their resources and earnings towards more fancy stuff like maybe vehicles.
Yeah, that's definitely a way to go about it. Yeah, I mean, there's not really a right or a wrong way to do it. If that's what you're doing and you're into it, go for it.
Okay, that sounds great. I think that's about it for me, actually.
Yeah, sure. All right, buddy.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
Yep.
No problem.
See ya. All right. Let's keep on keeping on. We got lowercase d now.
All right.
Oh, did I not put them in the right place? Let me grab them. Hello. Hello. Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good, thank you. Just checking the room around me if I'm getting weird looks, but it's not the case.
What'd you say?
Well, there's some people here, but
Tell him I say what's up. Tell him.
Yeah, sure.
I want to hear it.
Well, what's up?
There we go.
On Cinder.
What?
Maniat. They heard it.
Thank you. No, I hear them. I hear them. I hear them. I trust you. What can I do for you today, my good sir? Now that I've gotten you in a conversation with your housemate, what can I do for you?
Let me have a think. Yes, so how do you feel about revisiting existing character subclasses?
What do you mean by what do you mean by revisiting? Do you mean by playing the character playing a subclass multiple times, or like
no, or like making homebrew, like remaking some
great.
Features?
Yeah, I think it's great. I feel like especially for like the older ones, like I mean, even Wizards of the Coast did that with the Ranger. Like they completely rewrote the Beastmaster, basically. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I think that a bunch of the early subclasses don't function that well, and they're way weaker than the later subclasses. Like the Great Old One Warlock kind of horrible. The Arcfey Warlock is pretty bad. The Berserker Barbarian's pretty bad. I feel like I'm into it. I'm pro revisiting old subclasses to try to make them work in a way that fits the power level of the current game. I think it's fun.
Yeah, so I started on the Kensai Monk.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm kind of getting into homebrew, and I had all of these ideas, and I made a second subclass. Where do you think I should start with, like, really big ideas?
I think it depends on the big idea.
My flippant answer is shrink them.
So I was thinking making sort of rules and multiple things for mounted combat. So I made a subclass for the monk, and do that for more classes and some optional rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great way to start. Whenever I'm doing a homebrew, I usually do something where I have a core idea that I'm building around. So either I'm just making one random thing because I think it's fun or funny, or it's like, okay, I'm going to make a bunch of evil fae subclasses, or I'm going to make a bunch of, things. I feel like compendiums work well. It's also, at least from a player perspective, it's like the more tools you give them, if they like them, the more fun it is. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So I was writing some notes about certain classes, just really early stages. So, for example, could have some kind of horse god patron.
Some kind of what?
Do you have some kind of patron that at some point relates to being mounted in combat or
like
something?
A horse god. Yeah, that sounds cool. Like that would be very cool. If I was going to do that, I would make the warlock get a new pact option that made them summon a steed.
Pact of the Rain. That's so cool. Good.
Or maybe they would have like reins, or a saddle, and the pact would make it so they could like put the saddle on creatures to become their mounts. Something like that would be cool. Yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
That's cool.
I think that's a cool idea. I think I would go with neither of those. That would be fun. Being able to be a warlock that could summon something that you could ride would be pretty badass as a pact option.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
And for the monk, I think I'm missing one feature.
What feature? I'm just kidding. You don't know. You're missing it. Do you mean like one feature like you don't know what to put in it, or one feature like you're just not done making it?
Sorry, what did you say?
What do you say you're missing one feature? What do you mean by that? Are you missing like you don't know where to put a feature, or are you still like thinking about it?
I feel like I need one more feature to finish it off, the subclass.
What level do you need it at?
11th, I think.
11th level. Yeah. I mean, I it's hard. I can't without like I can't really give like super specific ideas because I'm not like looking at it right now. That would be more of like I would need to see the whole thing in context. But I would say that if it's 11th level, make it strong, make it cool. 11th level is a big power level.
And I would think it needs a bit more utility, but monks don't really get a lot of utility.
I mean, they can, I guess. Like, it depends on how you build them. But yeah, I'm a big fan of, if you, I think any good subclass gives a combination of combat and non-combat features. So if you feel like right now it is very combat focused, then I would definitely think about ways that you could give it something utility for sure.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
I know enough for now. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, dude. Thanks for calling.
Definitely do that pact for the warlock. That sounds sick.
It sounds really
cool.
Yes,
I'll write it down.
All right, cool, man. Have a good one.
Good stuff.
Yep, bye.
Bye. All right, next is Ross Gosling. What's up, Ross Gosling?
Ross Gosling. What a great
Ross name. Gosling. He's the guy.
Hello.
You're here.
Yes, I am. So, as an Englishman, I can make no excuse for my use of language.
Dude, everybody fucking loves. Whenever I get somebody from another country, everybody just starts going, "Oh, that accent." It's a superpower you have against Americans. All right, what can I do for you today?
So I guess my main kind of question and a little bit preamble to it is like, how to make NPCs like demonstrate overwhelming power.
That's a good
specifically like without pure like demonstrations of strength or authority. because my setting is kind of, it's a position where, sorry, my voice is screwed.
No,
My
that's
heart
fine.
is like
No, you're
killing.
good. You're good.
So my setting is like very barren, and the party is likely to run into individuals and not like large organizations where like a mafia boss might demonstrate power through authority. And I feel like I'm hitting one note over and over again where I'm just like, oh, this person's really strong because they're capable of killing you in an instant. But I don't know, outside of strength and demonstrations of authority, how to kind of demonstrate that power.
Yeah, so I have two thoughts. One is that if you are encountering these people isolated from others, it is hard to have, there's not a lot of ways to demonstrate power that don't require either seeing that power or interacting with someone and seeing that person react to like the knowledge of that power. So like, you know, you don't need to make the guy seem really big and scary if you go to a town and everyone like crazily respects that guy or like are at their beck and call kind of thing. But if you're doing like meeting in the woods, then how magical is your campaign world?
Very.
So you could also express it then. I mean, there could also be elements of not just how much they are respected or feared by people, but how much they are respected or feared by like the forest. You know, like somebody could show their power by like asking a tree to get out of their way and a tree uprooting and moving over so that they can continue on the path. You know, like there can be that's sort of where my head goes immediately in terms of like expressing power in a non-social way. Pat, what do you think? That's an interesting question.
So specifically, just to make sure I understand the question, specifically non-social, because I definitely understand that you don't want to hit the sort of one note of like I have the power to kill you in an instant. But are you looking to avoid any sort of social proof of power, or is it more just that you don't want to use the threat of violence?
I suppose, yeah, it's violence, because it's basically just kind of giving myself lots of branching options of, oh, this big villain could, as you say, like as Cinder says, like with the environmental effects, kind of, that's a new avenue that I haven't thought of where you can manipulate things around you.
You could also have somebody they can be revered. You know, villains don't need to be hated by everyone. Like you could show them cure a town, like a whole, like what if they cure a whole town of a plague, or like they bring someone back to life in a village, or they do that thing that druids do where they make the crops really good for a year. Like they can do things that are good for some people that they want to like them, and the party can see that happen. Like if you are doing stuff where it's like they're going into towns and stuff, I would also, I would lean in that direction too, because you can show power in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I was also going to say that you could. There are lots of different ways that you could use this. You could also think about the other things that someone in power might have access to, like information. If they know things about the party that maybe the party wouldn't expect them to know, that demonstrates that they have access to sort of those levers of information. And also just reputation, right? Like foreshadowing. Maybe people either don't talk about this individual openly in a very conspicuous way, or they do, and they do so, to Cinder's point, in a way that is like surprisingly reverent, right? And that could either be genuine because this person is posing as their benefactor, or it could be performative, where it's like, if I don't espouse how great they are for my community, I'm worried they might hurt me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's that.
Does that answer your question? Does that help?
Yeah, that like obviously branches out a lot more in my thought process. That's a decent way to go on.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say is a good thing that you should think about in general when you're making NPCs or bad guys is that you only know a bad guy is a bad guy when they're doing bad guy stuff. There's a million ways to encounter a bad guy and not think that they're a bad guy because they're going grocery shopping, or they're, going fishing, or they're, building a house. They don't all, everybody's got to eat lunch sometimes. So you can show characters that are hyper aggressive, violent, and powerful in moments where they're not being hyper aggressive, powerful, but still sort of show that. Like, the other thing that came to my head is, like, what if you went to a town and there was just a guy and he was just like eating a claw of like he was eating like a barbecued claw of like a giant animal, and like he had clearly like fought and killed this animal, but now he's just like hanging out eating it. You didn't see the fight, you don't even know how he did it, but like he might, and whether he's a good guy or bad guy, I don't know, but he definitely killed a big monster and is now eating it. So you could do stuff like that. Like, you just sort of see them in their ordinary life, in the same way that, like, when adventurers are encountered, depending on your game world, people notice that they're adventurers because it's like, oh, you have a lot of magic items on you. You know what I mean? Like, you're shining. Like, not everybody does that. So, like, they can kind of stick out in the same way that adventurers can stick out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think my mind originally was kind of just like, well, my party will probably try to kill anything that they encounter. So being shut down immediately by someone who's just going to brute force through their attempts is kind of the first avenue. And if they're commanding like a horde of people, that's the other avenue. But yeah, there's a lot more options.
Cool. All right, buddy.
Yeah, so cheers. Thanks for the input.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one. Thanks for calling.
Take it easy.
That was Ross. Classic Ross. What's up, Firefly? F is for Firefly. F is for friends that do stuff together. U is for you and me. Hello?
Sorry.
How's it going, buddy?
Pretty good. And yourself?
Oh, very well, very well. How can we help you on this fine occasion?
So I'm probably more looking for a little bit of inspiration, because I have had a story thread that's been on the sidelines that I feel like I should do something with, but I am kind of at a loss.
Mm-hmm.
But to give a summary, the party encountered a hag from the Feywild and managed to bargain with the hag to get some assistance with helping with a magical disease. But in doing so, the party traded a item attuned to the upper planes. The rogue bartered a favor, but didn't specify, and the bard gave her his name. So I kind of I feel like I want to do something that will just mess with the party or play with them, but not entirely sure where to take it.
I would say that you have two ways to go about this, and I think one is a lot easier than the other. You could try to tie all of those three things together into a thing, but I feel like you could handle each of those individually as little blips that come up potentially, because they're very different. Like
yeah.
Off the top of my head goes to, okay, a hag now has access to a celestial item. It is potential that a celestial will not be happy with that and will come and then, go to the party and be like, yo, why did you give that to a hag? Like, they could have to deal with like celestials being upset about that. In terms of like a favor, I mean, that's just them giving you a chance to do whatever you want. I would say that is, that's just like a wild card that you have access to. And the name is a strange thing. I think there's a lot of ways to go about it. One of the things that I have heard that I've seen people do with names before is tying names to like legacy and memory. And depending on how you want to interpret what it means to like have someone's name, I've seen in one campaign, I saw something where basically it turned into like this character started to become like known as like a bad guy because the Fae were using their name to like do bad things. Like they and by like it almost was like this wasn't a game that I was running, so it wasn't a huge part of it, but it basically like this idea that like if they have your name, they can assign something to you as like I bring your name with me on this journey to steal a baby. And now when people hear that a baby got stolen, your name comes up in that conversation.
That's brutal.
Yeah. One theme I was thinking of was regarding the name was that because the player who's the bard is very interested in, like, his whole character wants to be like remembered and pass down stories. So I was playing with the idea of essentially, since he no longer has a name, he's slowly going to get erased from history. But although I've got an idea, I don't really know how to enact that, if that makes sense.
I would have people forget that they met him, or associate things that he did or said to people that they can't put their finger on who they were. Like, the bard comes to the town, he does this amazing performance, he rolls a nat 20, he gets like 200 gold from the town, they get put up in the king's suite. It's like they get their names put on placards and stuff. They leave town, they come back 2 days later, and they're like, oh man, they're going to be so pumped, I'm back, I'm going to do another performance, the king's going to hang out with me. And then when they get there, everyone is still regaling these stories of this amazing bard. But when he goes and to the king, it's like, hey, I'm back, he's going to be like, oh, I don't... Listen, there was this great guy that came here a couple days ago. I wish you could have seen him because that was really a performance. Like, I'm sure you're going to do well too, but there's no way you're going to be as good as that guy that performed a couple nights ago. Like that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good idea. It gives. I think I left myself open a bit too much with it being vague with what I could do, but that gives me some ideas.
No. It's not too open because as soon as you focus it, it becomes the thing. Did you ever see the show Adventure Time?
Yes.
Adventure Time didn't have a plot for most of the first season. Legitimately didn't have a plot. There was no plan.
Not at all.
Not at all. It seems like there was a plan because they made a plan retroactively when they decided these characters should all have backstories and be complex. But it only seems like they had a plan because they built that plan retroactively. The first time you meet the Ice King, he's literally just the Ice King, crazy guy stealing princesses, shooting ice. There's no complexity. Yep. So the players only know it's not complex if you tell them it's not complex.
Yeah, true.
They might even start to connect things that you didn't try to connect and you just shut the fuck up about and let them think that you're really clever.
Oh no, I've definitely learned that one. Just you note it down when they say something good. It's like, yep, that's definitely better than my idea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pat, do you have any thoughts on Fae bargained things?
They are tricky, and I think that one thing that you don't want to force yourself into a position with is like, and this varies per table, but definitely try to keep the dialogue open so that if you feel like you misstepped in a really big way, you can kind of catch it quickly and be like, hey, like I actually misspoke or I gave you the wrong impression here. You're drawing the wrong conclusions. Let me reframe what I just said, right? Because I feel like a lot of the time you can overextend with Fae stuff because when you're dealing with Fae, all of your players are trying to read into every little piece of information that you're giving them. And it just sometimes you need to edit, and the more of a kind of open dialogue you have your table, the easier that is.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the bard's already wanting to hunt the hag down, so I don't know how long I have left to flesh it out. But in the meantime,
hags can always get away, man. Just have them disappear. They slink away. They go invisible. Maybe they tree stride. Maybe they get summoned. Listen, hags are slippery fellows if you want them to be. They got the whole forest to hide in.
Definitely. Definitely. No, but that I think that covers it for now, but thanks for your time.
Yeah, man. No problem. Thank you very much for giving a call. Oh, look, he hung up on me. I love when people do that. Next is... Oh, for folks that are asking, I'm going to go for about a half hour longer. Normally, I would go later, but I have to feed and walk the dog. And normally, I would do that now, which is 4:30, so I'm already making her wait a little bit longer. So we're going to go till 5. So I apologize if we don't get to you. But... this is the stream that I am going to start doing semi-regularly because people seem to like it. So if we don't get on now, you'll get on other times. Anyway, let's grab Bibsidian statue. So hello, Bibsidian statue. Bibsidion. I once knew a statue named Bibsidion, and suddenly I see.
Howdy, howdy, how.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good.
How can I help you on this fine eve? How can we help you? Excuse me.
So, I more or less have two things. One is kind of longer, and the other is just like, I want to start DMing, and I want to know where. Like, I have very little clues of how to start a game or run a game, and so at the end, I'm just going to ask for some recommendations for like videos or stuff to watch and see. Yeah.
Okay. What's your first question?
First question is, so I'm in a game. It's my first game that I'm in. It's been going for like a few months. I joined in like 3 sessions in or whatever, but basically, I'm playing a dwarf druid, and my backstory, no fault to the DM because my backstory is kind of just made up on the fly, but my backstory kind of has nothing to do with my character mechanically.
Okay.
Because like, oh yeah, dwarf druid that was abandoned in the forest by their parents, hence why they became a druid. They got taken by a druid circle. And then the subclass I chose, because I'm level 3 at this point, was Druid of the Stars, and that kind of has nothing to do with anything. Well, so I'm kind of wondering, like, how should I bring it up to my DM of like, hey, I want to incorporate this into the story more, or whatever, you know?
Yeah, okay. So the first thing is that it only matters if you care. If you don't care, it doesn't matter. But if you do care, what I would suggest doing is thinking about it in one of 2 ways. One, you can actually really just one way. I would say, hey, I went with this star druid. I really like the idea of the star druid, and just ask them. Say, I want to figure out how to make this feel like more tied to my backstory to the game world. Could we incorporate some stuff that has to do with like the celestial bodies or like me reading the stars? Like, could that be an element of like where could we tie that in? Because like your backstory isn't written in stone. I mean, it might be written down somewhere, but the only part of your backstory that is written in stone is the part that's shared at the table. So, like, unless you, like, said to your players, let me tell you the entirety of my backstory, and this is the whole thing, then you have wiggle room to be like, hey, can we tie in this thing that, like, like, I saw a shooting star, and I touched it, and that's what sparked my druid. I mean, you could always add that stuff if it hasn't already been included. And then separate from that, you can always ask the dungeon master, hey, how can I incorporate the details of being tied to the stars like into the game that we're playing? And they might have an idea and they might not. But you should just asking, I think, is the most important part.
Yeah. Because like the main thing is that I more or less just chose Circle of Stars just because the mechanics seemed really fun.
Yeah, they're great. It's my favorite druid subclass.
Yeah, and but like theming wise, it doesn't really have anything to do with my character. So I'm thinking either try and make my character's backstory part of that, or just reflavor the subclass altogether and just say, oh yeah, no, I don't draw my powers from the stars, I draw them from somewhere else, but keep the mechanics.
Yeah, either of those are a really good option. Workable. Yeah, because the if the mechanics are what you're excited by, you don't need to force yourself to make your character abide by the flavor if you're not excited by the flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could absolutely do, like, you could make the Circle of Stars druid into like a runic tattoo druid, or into like a divine light of forest druid, or a illuminated room druid. There's whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, you could even like just read like like when you take your star form, you could sure you glow or whatever, but it could be bioluminescent, it could be whatever, and then you don't need to describe like shooting a celestial star archer attack. You could describe it as like a seed pod, and it just does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because also, I just want to say the game that I'm in has 6 to 7 people, depending on who shows up, not including the DM.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first game.
most first games are big in my experience. I think it's actually fine, especially for a first game, because you don't really know what to expect, and it's actually I don't know. I found that it was a good pace setter because it allowed me to step into smaller games and like discover them sort of separately. But big games can work if everyone's down. Like my first game that I played in was 7 players or 8 players depending on the group, and as much as it was hectic, like everyone had a blast, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, like the main reason I bring that up is like that's the main reason why I haven't expounded upon my characters, because everyone's getting their turn in the spotlight.
Yeah,
and so that divided up against 7 people plus what the DM wants to do with the main story is over. Even though it's been like 6 months, it's still
Yeah, it can take a while. That's the downside of the big group, is a combat encounter can take an hour around pretty regularly.
Forever. Yeah. But yeah, and then I guess my second question was just I want to start to DM or even GM for Pathfinder Second Edition, because that both systems I like, but I don't really know where to start, like where to
And you
look
said you
for
wanted like video recommendations or general advice?
Kind of general, but mostly videos, just because I can't focus on reading for too long.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest you look at Matthew Coville's YouTube channel. He has a whole series called Running the Game that's very good. One of my favorite YouTubers is a guy who's, I don't know how big he is, but he's called How to Be a Great Game Master or How to Be a Great GM. And he has a bunch of series that are basically like college. They're almost around like college courses on running the game, different types of aspects of play. It's a huge deep dive that you could do on that. Those are probably the 2 that I would say. Seth Skorakowski, I don't remember how to pronounce his last name, but he's another really good guy for like giving advice about running the game. Those are the 3 that I like off the top of my head that aren't like the super big famous boys.
I would also say that one piece of kind of general advice is like don't feel like you have to be fully prepared in order to go into it, right? Like I've run into this trap personally, and so at least from my experience, like you'll go down in a Matt Coville sort of rabbit hole. You'll consume 20 hours of his content. It's all really great stuff, but then you'll sit down to your next session and you'll be looking for ways to work in kind of everything that he taught you, and you find that those moments don't necessarily come up as organically and as often as maybe he suggests that they do, because your table is going to look like your table, and that unique voice, that unique pacing, that unique flavor is something that you just kind of have to discover. You just kind of have to do it. And so while all of those videos are extraordinary and I second every single one of those suggestions, I would definitely say, like, don't be afraid to just do a session 1. And if it's at least a little bit fun, you've absolutely succeeded, and you've learned a ton that you can like then go up and say, oh, I need to get better at X, Y, and Z. Search for that on YouTube, cross-reference some of those names, figure out how to move forward there.
Yeah. The best way to start is just to start.
Oh, yeah. The first suggestion you said.
Which first suggestion?
The of the 3 people you said. I didn't get the first name.
Matt Coville. He is the head of MCDM, which is a company that makes some third-party products. But he's got a bunch of YouTube videos. He's just a good storyteller, but he has a whole series called Running the Game. Matt Coville.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say the best way to get good is just start. I will just make sure your players understand that you don't know what you're doing yet and you're figuring out as you go. I did not know how to play D&D very well when I started being a dungeon master, and I made every mistake that a dungeon master makes in lots of different ways, and it was fine. It doesn't matter. Like, it's, as long as everyone's having fun and you are like down to try to learn the game, or just not even learn the game, just make the game work for your table. That's all that really matters.
Yeah. All right. I think that's everything.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
You too.
Peace. All right. Next is Jano. Also, Pat, no pressure to stay. I am going to go till around 5, though, but you can dip whenever you want.
No worries.
Jano, he's here. He knows that he's here now. He's unmuted. Hello. Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
His phone.
Sally.
Oh, we can hear him. Hello. How's it going?
of the
Fantastic.
CinderBlocksally. Hey guys, what's up?
Oh my goodness.
How you doing?
He's a goof. We got a goof and a gaff.
One
I did
gap.
Jono, what can we
So-
do for you, buddy?
It's interesting that you mentioned how to be a great GM. I have played in con games with him.
Really?
We come from the same part of the world.
I'm jealous.
South
I re-
Africa does not have a huge gaming scene, so we all get to know each other.
I am jealous. He is probably when I was getting started as a dungeon master, he was my go-to for like trying to up the level of gameplay. He's great.
I remember I had the great pleasure after he made one of the really, really good map making videos that he did. I did a map and I ran up to him like an excited kid at a con. And I was just like, check it out, it's my one.
That's
anyway,
awesome.
I've also gamed a Zbashu, same circumstances.
That's cool.
Of animated spellbook, so lucky me. Anyway, if it's cool, I've got no urgent need for advice. But I do have some really cool homebrew stuff that has worked for me very well in the past that might help some of the people that have been talking while I've been listening in line. And I thought I might get some of your opinions on those.
Sure, yeah.
One of the big battles was something that came up earlier, and how to manage those. And having recently gone through a huge battle in a game run by somebody else where it was really cool, especially as a group of people who enjoy mechanics and breaking them down, but most of it was the DM playing a game with himself.
Yeah.
And so you really, when it comes down to it, you need to abstract what's going on that doesn't directly affect the players. And I had a really successful experiment once where I just borrowed the rules of risk.
Whoa.
I laid out, I had the
That's
Mass
really
Effect
clever.
style, everybody goes over a third of a campaign and gathers armies, failing to convince some people and succeeding at others. And at the end of it, set up like a Warhammer board of armies gathering against armies. We had the main conflict of players storm gate, armies clash, but any army that is not engaged with the players just rolls risk rules. Every unit is a d6, or an elephant rider is a d10. You roll them, highest against highest, lowest against lowest, and wherever there are discrepancies, lowest is a casualty. Take them off the board. And watch as the battle sort of ebbs and flows from one side to the other until there are only a few units left, who then join the main battle as reinforcements and enemies. And only then are they assigned stat blocks for the final battle, where the players actually get to fudge around with what felt like that on the battlefield. That worked very well for me.
That's
That's
very
really good.
clever. Using
That's really
a
good.
board game that is designed to be a war game as the rules to run a war game, it's like, it's such a good idea. And I'm saying it, when I say it out loud, it almost sounds stupid because it's such a good idea. That's great, dude. I really like that. I think that's a really fun idea. I definitely have players that would be like, I don't want to play Risk right now, but if I wouldn't be running large scale battles for those players anyway, so it wouldn't matter. That's awesome. I really like that idea. That's a lot of fun.
And the cool thing is they're not playing Risk because they're involved in the center battle, which is always D&D rules. And so they're just running through, like you said, the Kill the Commander quest. And the Risk rules are just determining what's happening in their peripherals.
Yeah. That's very cool. That's really fun. I like that a lot. That's very interesting.
And then just one more that that's the one that's relevant to the conversation. Another one that's been working really well for me is to sort of fix the wonkiness of death saves and the falling unconscious, miraculous healing potion, I'm back up. As well as the boredom of I've been knocked down and now until somebody can get to me, my role in combat is to roll once per turn. And that was to borrow from another game. It was, have you ever played Darkest Dungeon?
Yes,
on
I'm so
PC?
bad at it.
Death's Door works for D&D incredibly well. The simple rules are when you hit 0 hit points, you are on death's door. You're still standing. You can still do whatever you want. And the next time you take a separate instance of damage, you have to roll with advantage, a death save, fail, and you're dead. The second time you get hit, you roll without advantage, and the third time you roll with disadvantage. So you still have the escalating tension of mark the death saves on your character sheet, but the player gets to stay up, and instead of that sort of getting knocked unconscious and then the desperate tension of a rescue before a sort of quiet goodbye, you get the Aragorn, 1 arrow in the chest, he's still fighting. 2 arrows in the chest, he's still fighting. But then the third arrow is just too much, and down they go, or swarms of bugs killing them, whatever.
I think especially for a game where you want character death to be more of an option, that's a very interesting idea. I feel like D&D in 5th edition is almost designed to really push back against character death, like, at all.
Yeah, 100%.
So I do think that there would be a lot of parties that would be like, I don't want to die on a failing and saving throw with advantage. But I think that's I like that idea a lot. I'm curious. I'm trying to imagine how my players would feel about it. I think they would be scared of it.
Yeah, I think most of my players wouldn't necessarily enjoy it.
I think I would enjoy it because
it sounds like it could be fun.
I'm a big fan of character deaths. I think it's great. I think it does a lot to shake up a campaign, so long as it's not like super constant.
So we did just sorry to add a little bit of to as a solve for that, because we did find it was quite scary. And we tweaked it a little bit by saying constitution modifiers can be added to those rolls. So tankier characters have a higher chance of surviving those rolls.
Yeah.
And
That's clever.
the other thing is healing resets the bar. And so you can still do your thing. We've had one death in a year and a half long campaign.
Yeah, that's not so bad.
It's worked out to be a lot less scary than we anticipated.
That's a really clever. I like that idea. It's a lot of fun.
I also like that it's been play tested, right? Like, I like that you guys have been doing it for a while and you have like some information about how likely it is to actually come up. Because another thing that's true about D&D is that falling to 0 hit points is in and of itself pretty uncommon if you're not riding 0 hit points with a little bit of health. And that system changes the dynamic a little bit so that it's no longer beneficial to like come back up at 5 HP, take 100 HP hit, come back up at 5 HP over and over again. It's cool.
And because you're still up, you are able to retreat once you hit 0 hit points. So you're not sort of down and out right in the front lines. You can choose to be noble and stand on death's door, or you can run away and hide.
So before you go, you're in South Africa. I want to embarrass myself and say 2 things. You ready?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I have one of my best friends in the world. His parents are South African, so these might not be connected. But I'm just wondering, would you be able to finish? Would you be able to continue if I said something like, "Ah, please, Daddy, won't you take us to the drive-in? All 6, 7 of us, 8, 9, 10." Do you know the next line?
I do not know the next line, but I do know the song.
Okay, but that's a song. That's a South African song.
Yeah?
That's like classic South African song. The other thing is I can count to 10 in a South African accent. Do you want to hear it?
Oh, yeah? Hell yeah.
It's not good, but I'll try. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think that's pretty good, right?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You're hitting very much the Blood Diamond. Not Ben Affleck. Somebody help me.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Diamond.
I'll take it.
Yes, let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, let's
it's
go.
The little. You guys have the little roll of the R. It's a subtle noise, but it's good. All right, man. Thank you so much for the call in.
Absolute pleasure, man.
All right. Have a good one.
Easy.
Dude, when I was growing up and I would have sleepovers at my friend Dan's house, he and his brothers would just sing fucking crazy South African children's songs.
Wild.
And that was the one that I learned some of. All right. Well, I think we have time for one or two more. Let me grab Dragonfire.
Yeah, sounds right.
Dragonfire.
Hi.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going all right. I was very startled.
Yes. Dude, now you know how I feel when I'm on stream and Origami sneaks in and scares the ever-living daylights out of me.
Ooh. Okay, so I have a fairly simple idea, and then I have a fairly complex idea for the first. The idea that I have is character subrace template, where you could change any other race to an undead.
I think that sounds like a great idea.
So the way I have it worked out is to change your species from humanoid to undead, which is actually a pretty major buff. And then you would change it so that you would have sunlight sensitivity. I put it in sunlight sensitivity to make it kind of a little bit more balanced. So you would have disadvantage on attack rolls.
And perception while in sunlight, right? That's
and perception while in sunlight. I was also thinking about if you start your turn in direct sunlight, it would take a small.
So I'll tell you what I think. I think that if I were you, I would drop sunlight sensitivity. I don't think.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, first of all, holy moly, Idiot Sandwich gifting 5 memberships, you gentle giant, you courteous Tyrannosaurus. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, because I think that I unless you're trying to make it a vampire subclass, I think the sunlight thing really feels like a vampire thing, and I would encourage you to lean into other stuff if you wanted to give it downsides. And I feel like the very easy and obvious downside would be that you heal half on healing stuff. Like, you just don't heal as well anymore. So it's not like... So you can still be brought back with Healing Word. Like, it's not like healing magic doesn't work on you. It just doesn't work as well on you, is what I would do, something like that. Or, you could do, like, vulnerability to radiant damage or something like that. Or if you wanted to lean into other things, you could maybe give it so, like, you could, depending on how weird you're getting with your brew, you could make it so there's some penalty to some sort of charisma checks or something like that if you're sort of rotting. But I'm not a big believer of significant debuffs on stuff in D&D sort of at all, unless it's like very specific and tied to something else. And just from like a general gameplay mechanic, like even Wizards of the Coast are removing sunlight sensitivity from everything, just because it's like, it's the way that it's like people either are annoyed with it or they're just like, can my character get sunglasses? It's like it's either annoying or you just ignore it. I feel like most of the time.
Right, I was kind of leaning towards the 5e Drow subrace.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking that like undead spend a lot of time underground too.
Yeah, do they though? I mean, I feel like the dead spend a lot more time underground than the undead. The undead usually pop right out. Oh, we
no.
lost him.
Oh no!
All right, and that's the end of that. Sorry, buddy.
On we go.
I don't know what happened there, but we're gonna go on. We're moving on. Either way, I also wanted to say that there is an undead race already in D&D called the Reborn, and if you wanted to, you could be the Reborn, which is it's also it might not hit all the buttons, but it's not bad. All right, let's get Adrian. Adrian. Hello, I'm saying your name. Ha, ha, ha. Adrian. Hello, I'm saying your name. Ha, ha. His name is Adrian. Her name is Adrian. Their name is Adrian too.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Terribly sorry for not saying anything. I just realized I was muted.
No worries. It allowed me to perform a beautiful song.
Yeah, it was pretty nice, not gonna lie. So, how are you doing?
Great. How are you?
Pretty well. I finished early today, so I had some time, and I saw that you're streaming, so I literally got for the last second.
Yeah, man. That's cool. We're on for about 10 more minutes. So what can we do for you today?
I think I will keep it short because I'm pretty sure that the person after me would also love to talk. So I will just take like 3-4 minutes max, I think.
All right.
So, you remember the campaign I was talking about like a bit before, like with the artificer and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I think you remember. I'm not sure, but
vaguely.
yeah. So the idea is that they are going through the forest. There is like a house of artificer that changed one of the wolves into like a half mechanical wolf.
Yeah, and it's like a monster wolf. Yeah.
So I was thinking about like how can it go like a bit further, and I think at some point I would like the island to get attacked, like because they are on the island right now, and I would like them to go with a ship, like to flee from the island, and I was thinking like giving them like the first taste of the BBEG, which like I would pretty much want him to show in the middle of the island and pretty much like nuke it straight away.
Okay.
So something like
blow it up.
Yeah, so something like they're like running on the ship, and then you can see just like one single person in the sky, and then out of nowhere just like poof, and the city is gone.
So one thing that I would say, one thing that I would encourage is if you want to do that, if you want to do a really big like showing of power, you should not have it happen so quickly. It will almost be like a what the fuck moment where people, I don't think it will be epic and intense if the players just sort of see this blip happen. They'll just be like, what? But I don't think it'll hit how devastating it is. So what I would actually encourage you to do is to maybe not have it be like a nuke, but more like meteors, like multiple things crashing down, and have it start happening while the players are in the city. Maybe even when they're in a conversation with like a really important NPC, and then just have the building next to them just crash as fire starts raining down from the sky. And it's basically like, oh, we need to run away to survive because we can't even like that. The thing that's shooting these is like literally too high up in the air for us to reach or something like that. But I would have them be on the ground floor of the devastation, even if it's just like they're on the docks like planning to get a boat and it starts to happen. But them being present for it, I think, will have a much bigger impact than if it just happens in the background as they're leaving.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, no, I wasn't thinking like about making it in background. I was like also thinking about like the city being attacked, and then out of nowhere they like at the end when they actually manage to escape and they're on the boat, then the nuke comes up.
Still though, I think that, I guess what I'm imagining is I've been in situations where as a dungeon master I had like a really big epic awesome thing where it's like, I'm gonna surprise them with this, and a lot of the time if I didn't foreshadow it enough, or if I didn't have it happen kind of in steps but it just happened all at once, the players were kind of like, what the fuck? Like they felt like I was making it up as I went, in a way that even if I wasn't making it up as I went, it felt like I was just like, and then a guy comes out of the city and just destroys the whole city. Like they felt like it was a little bit of like a rug pull in a way that I don't think hit in the way that I wanted it to. So I would just be aware. I would just be aware of that. You don't want to make it feel like you're just making up random giant consequences. You want them to feel like, even if they have no control over that consequence, that it does feel like it's still happening in the world, and it's not just you as a dungeon master just making it happen.
Okay. Good idea. So I need to do some foreshadowing.
And it doesn't need to be a lot of foreshadowing. It could literally be, especially if no one on the island knows who this villain is, it could literally be, it could be 10 minutes of the villain flying around the sky and people being like, what the fuck is that guy? Like, I don't know. We don't have time for that. But like that could be enough of it. And if they do know who the villain is, then there could be like conversations happening about like, hey, did you hear that the guy that can shoot ion cannons is coming? Like, what are we going to do? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like you could do stuff like that a little bit too if you wanted.
Okay, that sounds pretty interesting. And the second thing, like, I know this is not the homebrew review, but I would actually have a question for you, because, like, of course, I'm not like planning. I have just like general concept of what I would like to do, but I will keep it short. So I was thinking about making some kind of class, let's say, but that doesn't deal any kind of damage. Like the class, I was thinking like the Thinkerer, someone who likes like someone who knows every type of creature in the Dungeons and Dragons, and he has a special book that can show the weak points of this creature.
I think that can be good. I disagree. I think they still need something that even the wizard can swing a dagger. I do think there needs to be an element of that a little bit.
Okay.
But what I would suggest is there's a class that I think is just online by Kibble Tasty called the Sage or the Tactician maybe, that is sort of like a intelligence based, it's like a non-magical intelligence class, and it's sort of like that, like using your knowledge. Another thing that I've seen that was sort of like that was a creator who I'm decently close with, goes by Vorpal Dice Press. He has a class called the Prism, and the Prism is like an alternative spellcaster that doesn't use spell slots, and they don't deal damage, but they mess with emotions. That's like the flavor. The flavor is that they can sort of tweak the emotions of people around them to create buffs and debuffs. And I think even then they do have some basic attacks, but I think that could work. You just have to make sure that there's enough that you can do that if you are in a situation where like you're the only person that's like on your team that's conscious or in the situation, you still have like stuff you can do.
Yeah, 100%. And at the end of the day, D&D's core game loop is about dealing damage, right? Like hit points and damage dice are the only thing that D&D actually really boils down to. And so if you're alone, you need to have at least recourse to swinging a stick.
Okay, but like, so let's say that he can deal damage, but not a lot of damage. But let's say that his damage can do specific things, like for example, like with the needles in some movies, that like you put it in the pressure points, and it can paralyze, or make an animal half moving. It can reduce the possible movements of an animal.
Yeah,
or
I
a
think
creature.
something like that could make a lot of sense. You could go in a lot of different directions with that. It could be something where it is like intelligence based, where it's like you just know these creatures' weaknesses, so it allows you to interact with them in weird ways. Or it could be magic, where it's like maybe you can like manipulate gravity or something. So like when you hit people, you make them slow down. I think that could definitely work. I think the most important thing to think about is like, what are you going to give this class what are you going to give this class immediately that starts it on the journey to feel like that thing, and that feels different than every other class? Because I will say my main feedback with classes, especially for people that are just getting started with them, is that if it doesn't feel unique by level 2, there's something wrong. Because if you need to get to level 3 to feel unique, then this can just be a fighter subclass or a bard subclass or a rogue like, you know what I mean? Like, as soon as you need to get to level 3 for you to be different, then I think that you lose the argument for should I make this as a class versus a subclass. So I would say think about what you want the core outline of that thing to look like, and try to figure out what you could do to start going on that process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I need to think about, like, this is just like because I just wanted to know an opinion of someone like who's more experienced than me, because I'm still a freshman, if I can say so. But yeah, I was like just thinking about it because
let me give you a piece of advice. If you're really excited about the idea of making classes, this is what you should do. Look at all of the official classes: paladins, warlocks, rogues, rangers, whatever. Look at the things they get at level 1 and level 2 and really pay attention to it. Say like, okay, what does a paladin get at level 1? It gets this and this. What does it get at level 2? It gets this and this. What does a ranger get at level 1? What does a fighter get? Like, really focus in and try to figure out, why do these things make a paladin feel like a paladin by level 2? Why do these things make a fighter feel like a fighter by level 2? And that will help get you in the headspace of thinking about sort of basic core mechanics that define a class. Because as much as a fighter and a paladin and a ranger can be very similar feeling, they have radically different low-level features. And you immediately, if you pull away martial, spellcaster, if you pull all that stuff away and just look at those features, they have strong vibe just from those 2 or 3 features they get, even though some of those features are almost the same. So I would look at the already made classes and try to use them to help you think about the way you want to frame your class features.
Okay. So that will be pretty much it for me because first I don't want to take too much of your time. I really appreciate your feedback.
Sure.
And like I don't know, like people are waiting, or if it ends, I would.
I'm gonna do one more after you, and then we're
okay.
gonna end.
Oh, good. Oof. Because I feel kind of bad. Like
no, don't feel bad. But I'm gonna hang up on you now. But you're wonderful. But I do.
Bye.
Want to keep going. Bye. You're wonderful. Bye. I hung up on him. All right, Dimitri, you're the last one. Hey,
Howdy,
Dimitri.
Dimitri.
Hello, Dimitri. Dimitri.
1 second.
Hello.
Mute the stream. Yeah.
Hey, buddy. What's up?
So, I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing great. How can I help you on this fine eve?
So I got like I think I'm just keeping it like to one question to keep it short because you wanted to wrap it up. I think.
Yeah. You're the end of the show.
All right. So
can you make yourself louder? Can you sit closer to your microphone or something?
I'm gonna try. I'm just gonna.
Oh,
Hold on.
I can't hear you now.
Is that better?
Talk.
Is it better now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, so basically, I'm like 1 or 2 sessions away from like concluding my campaign, and yeah, thank you. It's yeah, the second campaign I was running, the first one sort of like fizzled out because of like people moving away and stuff. But yeah, so basically, I asked my players for input and feedback, and what they expect like from the next one. And one of the players brought up like an interesting point because like the current campaign sort of like felt a little bit like too linear in a sense. Even though they had like options and alternative paths they could have taken, it still felt like to that player that they had like one path that required their immediate attention. And my question is, how do I make it like more open without turning it into a slog, sort of like without it losing a sense of urgency or lose momentum, if that makes sense? Because I sort of like always like feel like if those like that sense of urgency isn't there, and if there's like not a clear objective, that it's like not going to be very engaging of a campaign. Do you have any advice on that?
And you want it to feel a little bit more open-ended to start, or no?
I mean, I don't really have any particular exact plan, so I'm like really like in the early plannings of like what I'm going to run. So I'm really open to like you know, have it be like more open. I just like don't really know how to do it and still keep it engaging.
I'm curious because there are kind of two reasons why a player might, in my experience, why a player might say that a campaign felt a little linear. One, and I find this to be a little less common, but certainly a little bit more concrete, is they just want like a very open-ended sandboxy type of game, right? Like they want to take advantage of the fact that D&D is theoretically, you know, kind of an infinitely open world, to say like, oh, today in this session, I want to veer off from the main quest and just go find some gold or go spelunking in an interesting cavern. And I want to play this more like Skyrim than I do, you know, kind of a linear story. And that's a play style thing that some people like. And I'm curious if that's more of the reason, or if the reason is sort of the other alternative, which I see a little bit more often, which is that the player doesn't feel like the core events that require their immediate attention speak to the needs and desires of their character specifically.
I think it might be probably more the latter. Because that particular player that brought it up, I had like issues like sort of like tying in his character backstory like the hardest.
Yeah.
Like the others had like quite a bit of like tie-ins, and this one I struggled in with like the most.
Yeah. And so I think I mean that makes a tremendous amount of sense, right? And I think there's an element of trying to figure out kind of why that happened to an extent, because it's certainly a player that like creates a character that has some hooks into the world, that has things that character wants to do, if they are expected to go kill the BBEG because the BBEG is threatening the world in this super abstract way, and it's just their job, right? Like, you're the adventurer, so you must do this, and that's their only tie to it, they're going to feel a little bit left out. So I do think that like the first thing that I would do is just sit down and try to figure out like why was it difficult to pull that player into the main plot? Were they being obtuse about the way that they design their backstory? Did you maybe overcommit to parts of your campaign before you knew bits of their backstory? Like, where did that disconnect happen? That would be the first place that I would look at.
All right. Yeah. Okay. That's already a lot of help.
Yeah.
What do you think, Cinder?
I feel like having a player's story tied to the campaign is the player's responsibility more than it's the dungeon master's.
Well, the thing is, it's a little
Oh,
almost like
Lord,
Curse of
Cinder, we
Strahd.
disagree so much.
The thing is that it is Curse of Strahd, and it was already sort of like an isolated realm, and it is like difficult to do, especially if you have like stuff like this tied to the family far away.
So like
I come back around on pre-written.
Wait, let me say my thought.
Please.
I think that as a dungeon master, you have a certain responsibility to pitch the campaign, to say, this is the kind of game that I want to run. This is the setting that I want to run it in. What are you interested in? And then the players say, I'm interested in this, this, and this. And then you as a dungeon master can sort of add things to your campaign world or move things out of your campaign world depending on what their interests are and the way they build their characters. But I also think very strongly that if a player builds their character very separate from your setting or plot, especially if you take the time to like explain the setting or the plot, it kind of becomes their job to figure out what is important to their character in your plot. Like if you make a plot that is about like a robot revolution in a sci-fi world, and they play a character that's like a druid that is like now living in the city and they're looking for their uncle. You can tie their uncle to the plot of the robot revolution for sure. But also, they kind of have to be down to participate in a plot around the robot revolution. Otherwise, like, why are they on the adventure? So that comes with an element of buy-in. So I do think that it's a two-way street. But I think that a lot of that is done in like the session 0 in the early game where you're sort of like, this is my setting. What are you interested in this? How can we fuse it together and find something that we both are excited by? But the players have to decide to be the heroes. They have to decide to go on the adventure, and they have to decide that the adventure is important to them. Otherwise, it kind of doesn't work. So the more distant they end up making a character from the adventure, the more on their shoulders I think it is to make that character care about the adventure.
All right, yeah. Okay, cool.
But
yeah,
Pat
basically
disagrees,
talking
maybe.
to the players.
Well, no, I don't disagree. Especially when there's like a core conceit to the campaign, right? Like, I feel very strongly that a GM, especially one that's writing a campaign, should do everything they possibly can to work details and kind of around what the players are excited about, because that generally, in my experience, leads to more fun. But especially if you're running a pre-written game, and even just if you come up with a core concept, like the players do need to show up, right? Like they do need to yes and a little bit here.
I think I feel like it's two things. I feel like it's more work for you at the beginning and more work for players in the middle is kind of what I feel like it is. Like you have to put in the extra legwork to build them the playground, but then they have to decide to be at the playground.
So yeah, talking a lot of like
and you can also change stuff in the middle, right? Like if a player is struggling to make something connect to the story, then you can change part of your story to have that thing connect. Like one of the most important rules to being a dungeon master is nothing exists in your universe until you say it at the table. So if you have a big crazy plan and you're like, it's just not going to work with what this player wants, and I could make it if I change it dramatically, you have to ask yourself, like, how much do I need this to be the original plan versus how much do I care about changing it to make it work for the player more, you know? Like, I think that is a pretty reasonable thing.
I did a lot of that in like Curse of Strahd. It's just like
Curse of Strahd is honestly really good training wheels for that, because I find that it's also personally, I don't run modules anymore. I have a much harder, and it's because I really struggle to do that. I like build. I was talking about Patrick about this recently. I like building campaigns around the things that excite my players. So I kind of need to know what they're excited by to get excited enough to put the work in to run a campaign. So like, I don't want to try to sell someone Curse of Strahd and then like handhold them through making it work. And I've played in Curse of Strahd and I had a great time with it. But in terms of like I just know myself, and it's like if I am not getting other people's energy in the project, if I'm having to push them through it, I'm not having a good time.
Yeah.
So like I do almost anything I can to get them hype on it, and I've including like dramatically changing game worlds, because I guess I don't know. I also am not like I don't have like a campaign world that like is my baby that I love and I need it to be a certain thing. I'm pretty fluid. So I think that's another aspect of it, is like how much do you care about the setting and the game world you're running versus how comfortable are you giving your players a little bit more narrative control over deciding what things are where and like what things matter, which I think is actually a really easy way. It's a way to be an easy dungeon master. If you let players come up with half the world, you don't have to come up with half the world.
Yeah, I've tried to sort of like coax out what they expect, like also like setting wise from the next one. So I'm not like really set on any particular direction and like.
I would give them options. I would be like, this is what I do with my groups. I usually go like, hey guys, I have a couple ideas I'm kicking around. What do you think? And I'll send them like 3-sentence elevator pitch for like 4 different campaign ideas, and then it'll usually turn into a discussion of like what people are into, and then that discussion will usually lead to a new option, which is some combination of like 2 of those.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for calling.
Hold you up any longer? Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
You too.
Take it easy.
Friends. Patrick, first of all, Patrick, thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Of course. It is a little bit late. I got to go feed the dog, so we are going to end stream now. But friends, we are back tomorrow night for more D&D Homebrew review. If you are a member of the channel, we got a couple new memberships gifted on stream today. If you're a member of the channel, if you're part of the Patreon, you can still submit pieces for tomorrow's Homebrew. And just like on today's stream, tomorrow, if you want to come on stream to talk about your Homebrew, you can. So if you are a member of the channel or you're a patron, check out the member page or Patreon, and you can submit pieces for tomorrow's stream. And if you're not, consider joining. All right, there's the shill. All right, guys, have a great night. Be well. Everybody get home safe. Thank you. I love you. Bye. I love you. I love you forever. Thank you, Patrick. Bye.